Yeah, okay. I'm not even sure that I
Budget committee.
really even had time to look at that.
Do we have Sophie on, Audra? Is she on yet? How do we raise her? Do you want me to text her?
So we would have to have a 3-0 to pass anything.
Anything until Sophie gets here. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Camden Select Board meeting for October 17th, 2023. We are broadcast live on Spectrum TV, Spectrum Cable TV channel 1303, and we are streamed on YouTube on the town channel. You can also find us on Zoom. If you'd like to participate via Zoom, please raise your hand. We do not monitor the chat function. First item on tonight's agenda is public comment on non-agenda items. Would anybody from the public like to speak on non-agenda items? Seeing none, we move on to agenda item number 2, which is approval of board minutes for October 3rd, 2023.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor? Motion carries 3-0. Next item on tonight's agenda is the Select Board reports. Chris, do you have anything?
Well, I did attend the McGonagall River Committee, and things are moving in accordance with the priorities that were established by that group. They had a good discussion a couple meetings ago about that. They are looking to, hope to get more survey responses from the town, from the mailer that they put out and the information that's also out on the town site.
Thank you, Chris. Stephanie?
I don't have anything to report. I have a lot coming up in the next few weeks for meetings, so I have nothing.
Okay. I only have that the planning board will be meeting this week. Audra, do you know if it's Wednesday or Thursday?
Thursday.
Thursday at 5 p.m. to discuss short-term rentals. That is a Zoom-only meeting for anybody who would like to attend. Item number 4 on tonight's agenda is the manager's report. Audra?
So I have a bit of a longer report for tonight. It'll be sort of a monthly report that consolidates all the department heads updates as well. So I'm just going to cherry pick a few things as I go through this so it isn't really long. And then I'll send you all a written copy of it and we'll post that on the website. So Camden Coast Real Estate is going to be listing the 3 commercial units in the Knox Mill that the town acquired through tax lien foreclosure within the next week. And they were the only brokerage firm that we reached out to that was willing to list them. And they, she was really good about being upfront about what we can expect. So I think that we might need to revisit this as we go along and see what sort of interest we get in that. Kleinschmidt, we talked about how they performed the required inspections on the 3 high hazard dams, and this report is forthcoming. Another thing that they came back to do was look at all of these dams to provide recommendations on work that needs to be done for them to withstand a 1% probability flood event. We call it a 100-year flood event, but I think that that's not a good way to look at it anymore. So the 1% probability flood event and also options for fish passage. So this is something that they offer to any of their clients when they're doing these sorts of inspections, but it's also going to be coordinated with the work that Interfluve is doing as part of the NIFWIF grant. So I just wanted to send another reminder that MDOT's virtual public meeting for the Main Street Bridge project is still open, and they're accepting comments until October 24th, which is next week. There's a 3rd election happening this year on March 4th, and that's for the presidential primaries. So given the time of this during the year, we might want to consider an alternative polling location, because when we have to pull fire apparatus out of the building, it typically isn't a problem in June and even November, but having it out in the cold during early March is not ideal. So we might want to consider alternative polling locations. So we'll keep you all updated about this, and we're looking at a number of different options as to, what might work. We want to make sure that we have a location that's easy for people to get to and is central, and there's plenty of, that we just don't want access issues for people. So we'll definitely keep you apprised of that. In terms of codes and planning, the main building and energy code was updated from the 2015 edition to the 2021 edition. And we were given very little notice that there was I think it was a week-long training that the CEO is currently going to be updated on these changes. So the small little working group that we've gotten together about planning for the Ragged Mountain Recreation Area came together, and it was more focused on multi-use trails and mountain bike trails, and looking at other, sort of the other 3-season recreation opportunities. So that work's underway right now. We've got a small sort of effort going on to try and figure out what the master plan will be for that, and that'll integrate with the site law of development application that the town's working on with Gartley and Dorsey. The Mountainside Community Cooperative, their project to extend the sewer line out there, even though they received that $1.3 million earmark from the Maine congressional delegation, we're pretty confident that there's a portion of that, or it's not going to cover the entire cost of the project. So Jeremy is working with the state community development block grant program to look at additional funding to sort of cover that gap. For the fire department, Assistant Chief Lowe has been coordinating the annual preventative maintenance service inspection and pump testing of all the apparatus. There's a company in Vassalboro that does this, and Engine 5 tank cradle replacement is going to happen in mid-December. And this is all included in the budget for FY24. We're going to plan and coordinate a mutual aid rural water supply for October 28th with Rockport, Hope, Lincolnville, and Union to do this training. And they're going to utilize the Route 52 boat launch in Barrett's Cove to do this. So for the harbor, half of the steamboat landing floats have been taken in for winter storage, the same thing with the swim float at Lake Beach. And the harbor master is working on coming up with options for looking at doing some, sprucing up to the restrooms at the public landing. They're in pretty shabby condition. I think there's some fairly low cost, simple things that can be done, particularly now that we're in the winter season and he's not doing this sort of day-to-day busy management of the harbor. So he's going to come back with some options on that. For the Opera House, they've got a lot of great programming coming up in October, both in terms of productions and then rental events that are happening. For upcoming projects, Juniper's heading up an effort to rekey this building. It should be done every 5 years, and the last time it was done was 10 years ago. So, it's just really important for making sure that we know who has access to the building at all times and who's able to get in and get out. They're also instituting a new ticket check-in system that allows them to scan people in, and that'll be faster and give them more information. And this is part of something they're working on with our current ticket vendor, which is called ThunderTix. So for Parks and Recreation and the Snow Bowl, they're starting the recruitment for the seasonal positions. The fall foliage chairlift ride started, and that's every Sunday in October from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And also the ski patrol is serving wood-fired pizza, and that's also a fundraiser for them. The crew at the Snow Bowl patched the roofs on the temporary buildings that are out there. So the building that Side Country Sports has that lease agreement with us over. And they also conducted the annual maintenance on the double chairlift. For the police department, fall speed studies have been completed on Belmont Avenue and Lime Rock, and that's part of the traffic calming program. I think they have the results as of this afternoon. They had a Zoom meeting with representatives from Axon to design a system of body cameras and cruiser cameras and tasers that all network together. So for Public Works, there's quite a few updates, but unfortunately, with the rain that we had on the 7th of this month, it really did put the Pearl Street project behind. So we are not going to be closing down Pearl Street for trick-or-treating, and we're going to advise people to trick-or-treat in their neighborhoods and advise people not to come in from other towns to trick-or-treat on Pearl Street, because it's just not going to be in a condition where we'd want to encourage that type of activity. So paving happened over the last couple of days. So beginning on 10/20, the slip form curbing will be going in. And once that happens, they'll be able to backfill and compact the area where the sidewalk is, and then paving that. So that will be done, before the winter season, unless we have any sort of weather events that throw us off schedule. We're continuing to try to work with Consolidated Communications, who owns all of the utility poles in town, to transfer any remaining utility wires from old poles onto new ones. So I'm sure Tom knows about this. a lot, and everybody around town comments on it a lot, how we'll have two poles right next to each other, and there's a combination of old services and new services on them. And, it can be difficult to get all the utilities with attachments to transfer from old poles to new ones. So our Public Works Director, this is a sort of ongoing battle where he's constantly in touch with them about doing that. We have several right-of-way issues that need attention, so we're continuing to see residents filling in drainage utilities along the roadside and filling in ditches, and it's causing pretty significant drainage and road flooding problems. So there are about 3 of these that happened in the last month, and typically it's when people want to create roadside parking, but it could be for other things, like people just want to landscape the area right up to the pavement, because sometimes they don't understand that the right-of-way has another function. So we just want to keep putting this out there. I think we're going to need to do a little more public sort of information campaign to address this, because it's becoming something that's increasingly more common. Adjustments have been made to the Central Street sidewalk and crosswalk landing in preparation for the final course of pavement that's going to be going on. And we've received, and this is another thing that's really had an impact on, the ability of the Public Works Department to, move forward as quickly as we'd like with a Pearl Street project. We've had hundreds of DigSafe requests by GoNetSpeed, which is the company that's doing a fiber deployment in town. So for pretty much any, pole where they're putting additional fiber lines on it, they need to put guy wires, and for all those guy wires, we need to respond to these DigSafe requests. So this is having an impact on both Public Works and wastewater, where they need to, research and verify the location of the stormwater and sewer utilities. So it's been really time consuming, and something that really wasn't anticipated, because we have a short amount of time to respond to all of these. So having a few people that we need to pull off to do all this work has really kind of impacted some of our projects. So that's it for me.
Thanks, Audra. Could you tell us on one of the first items, the fish passages on the dams? What exactly are they doing? They're going to give us a report about the possibility of fish passage for those areas?
Yeah, so it's going to be, and this was something that was in the scope of the grant, and then we found out that Kleinschmidt offers it sort of like a higher level version of that, free to the clients, where they have to do these mandatory inspections, but they're going to do sort of a more intensive version of that coordinates with Interfluve's work, and they'll offer like a number of different recommendations on different options for fish passage.
Okay, thank you. Interesting. Board, any other questions for Audra? Okay. Moving on. Item 5 on tonight's agenda, action items. 5A is appointment of committee members to the following committees: Camden Conservation Commission, Cemetery Association, Camden Rockport Pathways Committee, Harbor Committee, Historic Resources Committee, and Planning Board. We have a large crop of applicants. Audra, are these listed in order of the boards that the committees that they've requested to be on?
Believe so.
Okay. One thing I didn't see on the application, I see. So they do, request which committees they'd like to be on.
It's just a checkbox down in there.
Yeah. So what do we need? What do we have for vacancies? What do we need to fill?
So let me see which page this is in your packet.
I think it's page 10 shows the committees.
The spreadsheet. So we're looking for, I think it's 1, 2, 3 vacancies on the Historic Resources Committee, and those are all alternates.
It actually starts on page 8. Okay, I see.
Yeah, so it looks like we have 3 appointments for alternates that's needed on the Historic Resource Committee, and there's 2 that are interested. I didn't see anything in their applications that bothered me, so I have no problem. Do we want to make a motion per committee? Is that what you would prefer?
Yeah, I'd like to go committee by committee.
Okay,
So-
I'll make a motion that we approve Witter Brook and Tricia Pendleton for the Historic Resource Committee.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries 3-0. Next committee is the Camden, oh, excuse me, is the Planning Board. We need one ranking member and 2 alternates.
So it looks like John Cole and Mark Murray want to become regular, want to re-up. Is that how I'm looking at that spreadsheet? So I would make a motion that we,
Before you do,
okay,
so right now we have John Cole as a ranking member and Mark Murray as an alternate.
and then we have Matt Wolf.
Wolf. Okay,
So they need 1 regular member and 2 alternates. So the 3 of them would fill those.
I see. Yep.
Did you have any?
Nope,
did you
nope,
look at
that's
that?
all. I just wanted the point of
Okay.
clarification.
Yep. So I'll make a motion that we put John Cole as a regular member, Mark Murray, and Matthew Wolf as the alternates.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries 3-0. The next committee is the Conservation Committee. Right now, we have openings for 2 ranking members that would, with their terms expiring in 2026, and 1 ranking member with the term expiring in 2025. It looks like we have also 3 citizens who have volunteered to be on the Conservation Committee.
So we needed 3 regular members,
We need 2 regular ranking. I thought
Yep,
it was-
just with staggered
Yeah, 3,
terms.
correct. Yes,
Yep.
that's right. We just have to decide 2 for terms expiring in 2026 and 1 expiring in 2025.
Well, Samantha looks like she wants to continue. So that would be, seems like a slam dunk there. And I have no issues with either Kayla or Tricia. Tricia's also wanting to be on another committee as well, so it might be good for her to be an alternate.
Yeah, it's actually suggested that she, if you look in the second to last column, that, I don't know how that was inputted, but she would be the member for, that her term expires in 2025.
Just a regular.
As a regular.
Mhm.
That's fine.
Yeah, we don't have any openings for alternates.
Yeah.
Just 3 regular members. So,
So I would make a motion that we accept Samantha Mortlock, Kayla Mackey Pittman, and Tricia Pendleton as members, and have Tricia Pendleton as the regular member for 2025, the other 2 for 2026.
I'll second that.
motion made and seconded. Further discussion? All those in favor? 3-0. Welcome, Sophie. Sophie, we are on page 9 of the packet.
Thank you.
The next committee is the Camden Rockport Pathways Committee. We have openings for 2 ranking members and 2 alternates. It looks like we have 3 members who would be interested in returning and 1 member, one citizen who would be interested in joining.
So the question to me becomes, who do we want to put as the alternates? Because we need 2 regular members and 2 alternates. And the 3 that want to return, they're all regular members, so
I know Jeff Scott's currently,
Jane is an alternate, okay. Oh, I'm so sorry, I missed that. Okay, great.
And is Jeff in town? Is he's still not due back in, is he? Or is he around?
Yeah, I don't believe Jeff is local.
He might be a good person to put as an alternate at this point. No? He does, okay.
Where does Jeff live?
Rawson Avenue.
Okay, he's just not here right now?
They took a vacation.
Okay, that's fine. You just made it sound like he doesn't live here anymore, and I'm
No,
like,
no,
what
he-
is going on? What?
He took a vacation
Okay,
for a year or more.
Okay, so, yeah, we could just reappoint as is and add Kayla Mackey Pittman.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries 4-0. Next committee is the Harbor Committee.
Oh, I made it right on time.
Cemetery. How
Oh,
about the
excuse me,
cemetery?
I skipped over the cemetery. We need 3 ranking members with terms expiring in 2026 and 1 ranking member with a term expiring in 2025. We have 5 candidates for those 4 positions.
I'm the liaison to the cemetery committee, and they would like to recommend that John French, Randy Stearns, Bob Oxton be the 3 regular members, and Karen Grove be the 2025.
You making a motion?
I'll make that as a motion, sorry.
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? All those in favor? 4-0, thank you. Historic Resources Committee, we need the following appointments: 3 alternates with terms expiring in 2024.
So you
You
skipped the harbor committee.
Sorry, it's a lot of, not on my game. Harbor Committee. Thank you. We have 3 openings, 1 ranking member with a term expiring in 2026 and 2 alternates with terms expiring in 2024. Looks like we have 5 applicants for those 3.
So I spoke with, I'm the liaison for the harbor committee, and I spoke with Josh this morning, and the committee would like to recommend to have Bob Perkins and Tom Griffin as the, so Bob Perkins as the regular member, Tom Griffin as the alternate, and Jim Bennett as the second alternate. That's the recommendation.
So Jim Bennett, who's the marine engineer.
Yep. Will be the second alternate. Tom Griffin.
Tom
Would be the
Griffin currently
first.
works for Lyman Morse, correct?
I
No,
don't
that's
think
Tom
so.
Ryan. That's
Tom
Tom
Ryan.
Ryan.
No. Tom is already on the harbor committee.
Yeah, he's serving as an alternate, right? Tom
Yeah.
Griffin. What about Ron Hawkins? He's got a lot of experience.
So he used to be on the harbor committee. And Ron Hawkins has a lot of experience, but he's difficult to work with. So I think it would be wise to follow the recommendation of the harbor committee to have Bob Perkins, Tom Griffith, and Jim Bennett. They've put a lot of thought into this. I think these are good choices. So I'm happy to make a motion that we appoint Bob Perkins, Tom Griffin, and Jim Bennett as regular members and alternates to the harbor committee.
I'll second that motion. Further discussion?
What makes Ron Hawkins hard to work with?
So again, Ron has a wealth of knowledge and experience. It is really hard. He's not a very good collaborator, and he has been known not to be very friendly with other colleagues. So we really want to have a committee that encourages discussions, that encourages disagreement in a healthy way so that it can be productive and it can move issues forward. So that's, why they've recommended Bob, Tom, and Jim Bennett. I think Jim Bennett also would be a wonderful addition to the Harbor Committee. He's a marine engineer. He's worked a lot on resilience and on climate change. It would be great for all the projects the town would like to get involved in at the Harbor Committee.
He would also be an alternate for, that would come up in 2024. So it would be a year sort of thing.
And by the way, Ron comes to the Harbor Committee and shares his knowledge and expertise with us on the topics that he feels he can contribute. So even though he doesn't have an alternate position or a regular member position, he contributes to the Harbor Committee. And Jim has
Is
submitted
it-
an application like months ago to be on the Harbor Committee.
Right. Is one of the disagreements with Ron is that he's not is he not for harbor sustainability, or do we have too many people that are just one mindset? Is there a good mix of people on the committee with different opinions?
I think it is.
Okay.
I actually think Ron is for harbor resilience.
Okay.
I don't think we have a disagreement. I think it's more of a collaborative approach or absence of collaboration. And I think the Harbor Committee feels that having Bob and Tom and Jim would lead to productive discussions, would lead to good projects for the town. And again, Ron is always welcome to come and share with us his expertise and experience, and we always listen to him. But that's the slate that the Harbor Committee recommends, and I think we should follow that.
Anything else? Motion made and seconded. All those in favor? 4-0, motion carries. Thank you. Historic Resources Committee now. Did I get it right? Yes. We need to fill 3 alternates with terms expiring in 2024. We have 2 citizens interested, and I know I have a text from Allison that I should find. Go ahead. Board, any discussion?
So we need 3 alternates.
Yeah.
And we only have 2 candidates interested. That's an easy one.
Yeah. I mean, all the regular members don't term off until 24, 25, so.
This will be the 3rd committee for Tricia.
So do you want to read
Yeah,
Allison's
just,
text?
she recommends that we hold off on Historic Resources Committee appointments. She doesn't give a reason.
I have no problems holding off.
Any harm in that?
No.
So somebody want to make a motion that
Oh,
we
I'll make a
table?
motion that we hold off on nominating alternates to the Historic Resource Committee.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? All those in favor? 4-0. Audra, remind me let's try and remember to get that on
Yes.
the upcoming agenda, hopefully when Allison is available.
That's just the second time that we put this particular one off, so I'd like to know why.
What the history is
Are we
on that?
just, yeah, are we not, do we need to solicit people? What?
I think we'll just take it on at a future date.
Yep.
When Allison is here. Allison certainly is very involved with the Historic Resources Committee. She's done a lot of great work. Next committee is the Planning Board. We have the need for 1 ranking member with a term expiring in 2026, 6 regular member, and 2 alternates with terms expiring in 2024. We have 3 candidates.
It doesn't say that John Cole and Mark Murray want to come back. They do. I will make a motion that we appoint John Cole as the regular member, Mark Murray and Matt Wolf as the alternates. Matt Wolf, this is, I think, his 2nd appointment, but I think it will be okay.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? All those in favor? 4-0. Thank you. Barely. Item 5B on tonight's agenda is the approval of the Rawson Avenue pedestrian bridge design. Audra, could you give us an introduction?
Yes, so Chris Fournier from HEB Engineering, I believe, will be joining us via Zoom to answer any questions about the preliminary design report that's in your packet. So the options are the ones that he ran through with the select board when he was here, I think it was a month and a half ago or so. And those options are more fleshed out in the preliminary design report. So really at this stage, it's just a matter of you picking a design so that Chris can move forward with the engineering and we can make sure that we hit the schedule for, advertising and construction that we've committed to with MDOT.
Chris,
Yes.
take it away. Is there anything you'd like to present to us tonight?
Sure, I am sharing my screen, so I'm not sure if that's visible on your end.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. So I just wanted to, recap and follow up with some of the highlights that was requested to kind of go over. But I did want to just review the three alternatives that we did present previously again. The first alternative being an aluminum truss type bridge. We did recommend an 8-foot width for that. This alternative is aligned with the roadway, so straight on as is the vehicular bridge. This alternative was selected for its durability and low maintenance. It's a quick construction period but a long lead item. So this bridge does take a long time to fabricate and ship. And the probable cost for this is just over the current project budget of $500,000, so it's just at $530,000. I'll have a summary at the end here, so I'm just going to quickly run through these. Alternative 2 that we selected was the steel beam bridge, so a relatively simple bridge when it's all said and done. Same 8-foot width as the aluminum truss. We're talking about a steel girders with a wood deck in this situation. It's really the most economical kind of no-nonsense bridge for this scenario, with a relatively quick construction duration, readily available materials, and it does come in underneath the project budget as we estimate the costs with today's numbers. The last alternative was sort of the landmark option of really creating a feature and going with a traditional timber covered bridge. This one we did suggest could be aligned with the tannery site if there were to be some development done over there. So it is a little bit longer than the other two options. And also the 10-foot width may be more appealing for this enclosed type structure. And really this construction duration is longer, so that's to be considered. But the cost is well above and beyond the other two alternatives. It's twice as expensive. In summary, I've added a little bit more detail regarding the life cycle of these three alternatives, as well as the maintenance that go along with them. And then additionally, on the left side of this table, I've provided details about sort of the structure depth below foot. So I know there is some questions about, the head height remaining for, boat traffic underneath or hydraulic clearance, and I wanted to comment on this. So the existing bridge is about 22 inches from road elevation to the bottom of the concrete that exists today. There is a center concrete pier in the river, which will be eliminated as part of the main DOT project before the pedestrian bridge is installed. So you can see here that the aluminum truss bridge is actually shallower underfoot than the existing bridge. So if we maintain the finished grade of the roadway, then the hydraulic clearance will be just slightly increased. The other alternatives are deeper. So while if we maintain the finished grade, that would reduce the hydraulic clearance, which is not something we're interested in doing. That would involve just raising the roadway that amount of fill, to bring the traveling public up to an elevation where we would not impede on the hydraulics in the river. And then the rest of it just sort of summarizes what I talked about mostly, and then the life cycle, which we highlighted in the report. An aluminum truss bridge, we're looking at a life cycle of 100 years. So it's a usable lifespan, if you want us to call it that. Steel beam bridges, we're seeing run about 75 years for their durability. And then covered bridges are highly repairable as we go along, as they have many redundant components to them. So we're often seeing, communities hold on to those treasured landmarks and kind of essentially replace it piece by piece throughout that long duration, and really stretch that lifespan. So maintenance associated with the aluminum truss bridge, really low maintenance. We're talking about a composite deck structure, or deck surface. So relatively infrequent deck replacements needed. For the steel beam bridge, we are recommending that it be painted to protect that steel, just based on the salinity in the air and the environment. And typically with those types of bridges, for the economics of it, we are looking at a wood deck. So that's something that's relatively easily maintainable by town forces and replaceable. But there is cost associated with that additional painting. And then the covered bridge, as I said, it's really a piece by piece repair of these structures. They do have deck, they do have roofing, they do have siding. So all of the sort of maintenance that you have with your own house, and as well as that piece by piece structural rehabilitation. So that's quite expensive on the maintenance front, but it is to keep that landmark and stretch that lifespan as long as we can. That's really, I'm trying to keep it brief, but kind of providing you with some additional detail from our previous presentation and the report, and help sort of facilitate discussion towards a decision to move forward with the design.
Thank you, Chris. Board, any,
But Dave Salon is here.
you want?
I don't know.
I was going to bring it to the board, and then I was going to bring it to board. Would you, any questions or comments for Chris?
Well, we did get an interesting email today from Jeff Scott, where he presented some options that I thought were interesting and seemed like cost effective. Granted, he's not a bridge engineer. And the elements that he thought about, and they seem to make sense to me. Steel bridge, lower expense. Instead of going with wood, go with composite. And, put a little bit of arc to the bridge so it has some aesthetic function as well. So if we brought it up on our laptop there. I don't know why we don't have an option kind of like that. I mean, these are the same things we saw before.
Chris, to give you a little background here, this is a resident of ours, and he suggested an arched bridge for the aesthetics, and also he said that it would reduce an arch would reduce the amount of the structure on the bottom, thereby allowing some more clearance for water and kayakers or whatever goes under it. Any ideas on an arched bridge with I know it's right off the cuff, but.
Sure. Are we talking about a sort of arched truss bridge, or are we talking about an arched underfoot structure?
I think it was arched truss.
Okay. Yeah, that we did evaluate steel truss bridges. There are multiple varieties. So the arch shape does, come with an increased expense. So if you'll remember in the study, we did present several options. So options within, the columns that you can see here. And then selected at least a manageable choice. You know, you have 3 to choose from. So we can go back and evaluate, you know, a fine-tuned revision. So that would really kind of replace this first alternative, which is the aluminum truss bridge. We suggested aluminum rather than steel because steel will need to be painted, and painting of a steel truss is much more labor intensive and difficult than painting a steel girder type or steel beam type bridge.
And you
So-
can't, can you make an aluminum bridge look like that one? I like, the design is
I'm
more
not seeing the visual, sir.
oh, I'm sorry. I
No,
thought
because
you-
it's not, I'm not going through Zoom.
Oh, shoot. Is it possible to make an aluminum bridge
Can I email it to him?
that's sort of a curved truss?
Yes, and you can paint them as well, so you won't know it's aluminum. Yeah, so really, you could take this option 1 and add, you know, $100,000 to it.
Right.
And achieve what you're talking about.
But it might look a little less industrial. I mean, granted, you know,
Correct, yes.
at some point, that might be an area that has other things going on. And then I think for a lower cost aesthetic, going with materials that are low in maintenance, going with the 8-foot wide width, you know, to save on cost as well instead of the 10.
But eight is so narrow.
Eight is the
It's
same,
so
but
narrow.
8 is the same width as the walkway by the YMCA to Rockport. That's also an 8-foot width, which serves people fine. And this is a relatively short distance, 80 feet.
Chris, by arching an aluminum bridge, would you then gain some distance on clearance underneath the bridge?
Sure, in the middle of the channel, yes, at the ends, no. You know, that's,
I'm trying to give you control back, sorry. It's gonna happen.
So you can't see
So
your screen.
I do have a few, well, we figured that out is, this is a bridge that is supposed to last a long time, and maintenance and painting and replacement of any parts or stuff, I'd really like to take that under huge consideration. I personally do not want to see a wood decking go down. I wouldn't want the Public Works to have to go out there and just maintain it and keep it going. The sidewalk, plow. I mean, to me, I wouldn't speak for Dave, but I just feel like the composite would be a much longer lasting without having all that upkeep. Also, painting of the bridge. I mean, we are talking about an 80-foot walkway. I mean, I don't know how many people are going to use it forever, but I mean, it's not going to be the Belfast across the bay walking bridge. I definitely think that there are ways to improve the aesthetics if we went with the aluminum truss just for the upkeep, durability, all of those sort of things. Of course, I would like it to be the color of nature, but in my opinion, I would be willing to, I would be okay with option 1 just for the price of it, the upkeep of it. Public Works is not going to have to go inspect it as much as they would have to with a wood-based anything on it. I don't want to see peeling paint. I don't think anybody would want to see peeling paint, and that's something that Public Works would have to do. I wouldn't even want to see what it would cost to go back out and scrape it, make sure that none of the paint chips went into the water, make sure that none of the overspray went into the environment. I mean, I can just, those are my thoughts. Option 1 to me seems like the best for those reasons.
Allison asked me to chime in that on her behalf. She likes the aluminum bridge option. She thinks it's smarter than steel in the long term. She also says that she doesn't want us to get involved in painting steel over the river, and she's concerned about salt on wood and steel getting on places where salt can cause damage. Do we want to talk about orientation at all?
So, sure. So what is Chris expecting from us? Like to choose one of the three tonight? Okay.
Yes.
Can we hear from Dave Sandoval?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that would
Yep.
help me.
Dave, do you have anything you'd like to add? Yes, please.
And I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I always appreciate your thought.
So we can't consider A with,
We could certainly make a motion and vote for that, but we also, it's wide open right now, Chris. Go ahead.
I think Chris went through the three options pretty well, and he said that adding the arch to the truss bridge would add about $100,000. So if that's really what you want to do to have the arch, and you want to spend an extra $100,000, that would make it $120,000 or $130,000 over the budgeted amount. I think that the first option is going to do everything we want it to do and probably last the longest. So it's, you have to weigh the aesthetics versus the usability of it. I think that the fact that it's more elevated and you have more hydraulic clearance underneath, the first option is the best one. And from that perspective, because people are going to want to use, go under the bridge probably. So the more clearance we have, the better. And then for flooding events, we want to have that clearance also for that reason, because we have significant flooding that's occurring over time, and logs and things get, pulled under the bridge, and the more clearance we have, the better off we are. If anything, I would also recommend maybe bringing it up a little higher, like you would with the steel beam bridge, but I can talk with Chris about that after. The more clearance under the bridge, the better off we're going to be, I think, for flooding and for activities under the bridge. The other parts of it are just aesthetic. But I'm all about, buying something that's going to last for a while. You're talking 25 years more life on the first one versus the second one. That's a long time, so you're paying more, but you're getting a significant more amount of time out of the bridge. I mean, it's like picking a paint color, it's hard. You gotta, everybody has a different color they like. So it really, you gotta weigh out the pros and the cons, what's more important, the utilitarian aspect of the bridge versus, the aesthetics of it. Are the aesthetics worth $130,000 to you? That's to me, the big decision you guys have to make.
it's a surprising price difference.
Yeah.
It's quite a
Yeah,
bit.
again, that's an off the cuff. That was with I was talking about if you painted the aluminum truss and turned it into an arch.
So how much would just the arching of the bridge, the arching of the truss be?
Yeah, I do think they're about 50-50 in that scenario. So,
Yeah.
but I think with the decision tonight, I think we've provided three very different alternatives. I'm hearing the board, gravitate towards alternative one with some potential tweaks, and that's okay, right? So we can work through the fine-tuned tweaks and get firm numbers on those cost differences. If we're arriving at a conclusion that in general an aluminum truss type bridge is where we want to land, we can start going down that path through the design development process. We can then get real firm numbers on painting, firm numbers on different arch styles, and firm numbers on different deck types. That way we can then fine tune those further decisions. Really we're looking at the big picture. A steel bridge that, is really low visibility, a covered bridge, which is a grand gesture, or an aluminum truss bridge, which we're seeing as becoming the most popular option in communities.
Any questions for Dave? Thank you, David.
So that was helpful. So I was hesitating between 1 and 2, because I think 2 is slightly more aesthetically pleasing, but I can completely understand choosing 1 just for maintenance and utilities. But are we saying that we're asking Chris to price an arch as well, or?
We haven't decided yet, but he offered to.
I think it would be good to get the details and see if, is it possible that a bridge that looks a little less industrial has some aesthetic to it. If it can be done at a reasonable price, not much different from the other, then the other thing isn't built. You know, it's a matter of adding an arch. Probably takes less material.
One question I have for Chris is the painting of the aluminum. I mean, what's the turnaround or the life cycle of the painting of aluminum? Or is there another coating that isn't a paint? Is it, you know, like an oxidation where it would, you know, make it black or something? Or
I thought the painting was for the steel.
no,
No, it's for the aluminum
he's
as well?
that was
You can paint aluminum so it's aesthetically pleasing, right? But, you know, there are some
So it doesn't
folks that
look-
are put off by the aluminum appearance.
So it doesn't look
they-
like metal. Get it.
But what would be the length of time like a painted aluminum structure would expect to
That's
be?
gonna need constant touch up.
Right.
Yeah, like a Range Rover. No, I would just like to see the structure, try to make the structure look less industrial, but go with the easy materials to maintain.
I'm just going to throw it out there that I think 530,000 to start this is not going to be where it lands. It never does. Name one project that lands within budget. I am certainly not going to entertain another option that goes higher than that without knowing what the end result is going to be. I think what we have is, in my opinion, the best option we're going to have, seeing as we have citizens that are, you know, trying to make a decision to eat or take their medicine, and taking money out of any other reserve account or anything just seems, to me, in my vote, it's going to take a lot of convincing to go higher in price.
Now, two questions, you know, the short answer, why are we not doing a car bridge like it was before? Was that something, and two, of the $500,000, how much is the town having to provide versus the state?
So the decision to go with a pedestrian bridge is as opposed to like a multimodal vehicular pedestrian bridge. That was made by a select board a while ago. It's been a long time now. Was it pre-you coming here?
Yeah.
So that was probably back in 2018. And so when that decision was made, we moved forward with MDOT said that the only way that they're going to put a bridge back at all is if the town pays 50% of the cost of it. It can be multimodal bridge or it can be just a pedestrian, like we don't really care what you put back there. We'll pay 50% of the cost of it and then it's your bridge because it's theirs right now. It's
So
a
they're-
redundant bridge in their opinion. So they're paying 250,000 towards this, and anything over the combined $500,000 price will have to be paid for by the town,
So anything beyond 250 or beyond 500?
beyond 500,000. So their 250 is fixed and that's it.
Yep.
And our 250, it could be, at this point with option one,
Be 280.
it'll be 280. And if we want
So
something.
we have to fund we have to fund whatever is over 250.
Yes.
Okay.
I think the other thing too is that they weren't going to fund any of a vehicular bridge. I think that we were going to,
No, they would have funded 50% of the cost of a vehicular bridge, but
but
we
it'd be much
wouldn't,
more.
we wouldn't be talking about a $500,000 project. We'd be talking about a multi-million-dollar project
Yeah.
for a redundant bridge that right now everybody's getting around town
Okay.
fine without it.
I mean, the other option, I mean, and it's what Jeff kind of said, is that you could have the steel bridge and not coat it. and have a steel arch truss bridge, I think is what he
Right,
he
right.
said. That is another option.
But would that have
And I don't know what that,
different longevity?
yeah, I think based on the steel beam bridge, he said it was 75 years versus 100.
Is there anybody from the public that would like to speak on this or ask questions? I'm less concerned about the aesthetics of the bridge. I think you can, add flags on the 4th of July or ask the garden club to add hanging flowers off to the side. There's stuff like that you can do to make even a raw aluminum bridge look nice. Footbridges in general are fairly easy to decorate, I think. You can hang a banner from them when there's a significant upcoming event or something like that. There's lots of fun ways to do it. The bigger concern for me would be the take up, the amount of the clearance underneath, if a big, and maybe the durability of the bridge, if a big piece of wood comes downstream, is the aluminum going to hold up? But if all of those questions are added to my, answer to our satisfaction, I think that option 1 is our best bet. I don't like the idea of painting anything over the river, excuse me. I think raw aluminum is best and adequate, again, given that we can improve the aesthetics with some other things.
Yeah, I think it's not it's important to people who use it, but it's not also like the main bridge in town, right? So
It's going to be kind of hidden, kind of where
Yeah.
it is. It's pretty, there's a lot of foliage in the area. There's a lot of trees. It's not like and we have it in the harbor already. We have a lot of bridges in the harbor, ramps in the harbor, and I don't think anybody finds those offensive. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, so we should go with that bridge.
Do we want to discuss orientation before we move on to anything else? That is another thing we have to decide. We have to decide if we're going to orient it.
Makes more sense to keep it straight the way it is, with the way people use it, probably like I used to use it to go to school. I wouldn't want to walk to the left to go straight to school. And we don't really know what's going to happen with Tannery property. And you get into some other hazardous waste and how is that going to be affected with however the site was remediated, and it's opening up a different can of worms. I'd say keep it straight, keep the cost down. The flow of traffic, the way Boston Street usually is.
Sophie?
No, I think the clearance issue probably, I agree with you, would be the only thing to hire better. But
Chris,
I think there's consensus, actually.
that leads to a question. If you build up the elevations on either end, could you raise the elevation of that bridge? And would there be any significant cost or issues with that?
Nope, that's really relatively inexpensive change.
Okay,
It's just dirt
okay.
to fill up. Yep.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. Well, the low cost, low maintenance bridge, and then bringing it up even a little higher, so we have hydraulic clearance underneath is, to me, the best case scenario. But I'm not talking aesthetics. I'm kind of bow out of the aesthetic part.
Board, anybody like to make a motion, or?
I'm happy to make a motion that what are we recommending to Chris?
We're choosing a design.
We're choosing.
And a design and an orientation.
So the design, the orientation, right. So the design is the aluminum truss bridge with as high as clearance as possible. Anything else I need to add? to this?
Oriented
Straight across.
straight across.
Straight across, with the orientation being straight across.
I'll
I
second.
think that all makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
It's all clear to everyone what we're doing?
So we can't have him just do an arch just to see if it's a price difference?
Well,
What
You
is-
can
what's
do
it
that on
saying?
your free time.
Well, we have a motion made and seconded. Further discussion?
Can we have him also, is it a large cost for him to figure out if a curved truss bridge is any more expensive? What if it was the same price?
Well, part of what we've done is we've contracted to Chris to do X amount of things because this is part of the local administered project. This is all on a really tight timeline, and he needs the
So
lead
the answer is
time.
no.
Well, we have to pay more, to get that answer.
Okay.
Because we have to ask him to do something else that wasn't contracted. He was supposed to provide the things that he's done. And every time we don't make a decision on this, the lag time between the bridge removal and the bridge construction
Mhm.
grows further apart.
Yep.
And we're trying to kind of keep that window of not having a bridge there as short a window as possible because of the use of that area and the kids going to school. So I'm not trying to, hurry this, but I think that if we do that, we're going to be kicking this down another couple weeks. And every time we do that, we're lengthening that time of not having a bridge.
It's too bad we didn't think of putting a more aesthetically pleasing bridge in as one of the options.
I mean,
but-
we can still do that.
No,
That's,
it's fine. We'll drive on, with
I mean, I
an
don't think,
efficient bridge.
right, but also I don't think, I mean, from what everybody shared today on the board, I don't think there's a lot of support to spend more money.
No, but we
And
don't even
adding-
know if it's going to be.
Well, you're going to add some structure. I doubt that it's going to come cheaper. It doesn't make
Actually,
sense to me if you add some
it
arches to the bridge. I
It
don't
takes less
think.
material to do an arch than it does the other way.
Chris, would you be willing to chime in on that? Is the bridge as designed in number one,
Drive on.
in your opinion, more expensive or
Yeah.
less expensive than an aluminum arch?
Again, I haven't seen the visual of what's being described as an aluminum arch, but if we're talking about an arched truss bridge,
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
then it will cost more than we've provided you with the least costly truss style
Okay. Good.
in alternative one. And Dave, I am willing at no cost to the town to investigate what that cost increase actually is for a truss bridge. As long as we can sort of decide a general direction. If we're deciding tonight to move forward with an aluminum truss bridge, I can provide those finer details on pricing of a couple different truss styles.
I'm okay with that.
I don't want to add to the time frame.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to add to the complexity.
It won't, no.
Okay, that's fine. So I'll amend my motion to say that. So we're giving Chris so we're following the recommendation number one to have an aluminum truss bridge. Chris is gonna explore two different designs, one with arches, one without arches, at no cost to the town. Thank you so much, Chris, for doing that pro bono. We appreciate it. But the direction of the bridge remains the same, straight across,
At 8 feet wide.
at 8 feet wide, sadly.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? I would like to ask one last thing. Chris, we have, and I don't know if this is possible, but we have several really good metal fabricators in this area. Rockport Steel, Steel Pro, and Lyman Morse Fabrication all come to mind. I'm sure there's others. Would they have an opportunity to price this structure?
All projects like this need to be publicly bid.
Okay.
There are certifications required for aluminum fabrication and pedestrian steel construction, or pedestrian bridge construction. So if they meet those minimum requirements and can fabricate the type of structure that's being selected, then they would be available to bid the project.
And this will be advertised on the DOT website?
Yes.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion?
Can I ask the board one question?
Yes.
So I guess what is the tolerance in terms of increased price between option one and if there's a steel arch?
Well, I thought we were going to get maybe at the next meeting another.
Yeah, I guess I'm just
Option.
trying to expedite this. So, if Chris comes back to Dave and I and says the steel arch versus the, straight across truss.
It's all aluminum, but yeah, sure.
Yeah, oh, sorry, aluminum straight across versus the arch is 50,000 more. Is that okay? 20,000 more? Like what is tolerable to the board? Because, there's a way that we don't have to bring this back.
Right.
If the majority of you are like, nope, it's going to be too much more to be tolerable.
I think 20,000 would be my limit.
I feel like if we can get 100% guarantee that we're not going over 530,000 on this project, then I would be willing to give a total, but is there ever a project that stays within budget? I don't even think we've
Well-
painted lines within budget, for God's sakes. How can we say that it's going to be a 530? We're already $30,000 over. So,
I think Chris does a lot of bridges, and if he thinks that this is a $530,000 bridge, I'm gonna have to defer to him. That's,
Is there a reason why you need that? I mean, 2 weeks? Is there some type of time crunch that we're not aware of? The 2 weeks?
Just everything Dave was saying,
Yeah,
and
I
what's
mean,
the point and it's a lot of work to keep bringing things back on the agenda over and over again, and for you all to be talking about them over and over again. So I'm just looking for any way to expedite this.
So
It
if
really
our
is.
upper limit was so if it's $70,000 and we round it up to 600, the town would have to pay 350, right?
Yes.
So.
Yeah.
okay. I mean, I have no clue. And I have no clue what steel costs or aluminum costs or how much, I mean, to me would be probably like at most $600,000. That's, if you're asking me for my upper limit, that's my upper limit, but I don't know that it's the board. Chris says 20, Stephanie says 50. Tom? It's really hard to appreciate.
I'm putting it on the
Zero.
record, I did not say 50.
You said
I think
zero.
530,000 is quite enough. And quite frankly, I don't think that a arch design on an aluminum bridge is going to add anything aesthetically that's going to convince me to go higher than 530,000. Convince me.
Yeah, I kind of like that aluminum design. I think it's basic. The arch doesn't really add anything for me. So if it's cost neutral, arch
we-
is fine.
So we have cost neutral up to plus 20 for Chris. That's
But
the
I'll go
fork.
with- But I'll go with at least, hey, we're looking at it.
Oh,
And so I'll go with zero. Maybe it's
Zero?
nothing.
okay.
Maybe
So if it's
nothing.
not, nothing, okay. So
So
I'm
the-
amending my, I am amending my
Make a motion.
motion. So the motion I'm making, that we select the aluminum truss bridge with 8 feet width, with a maximum price of $530,000 with or without an arch. And the direction is straight across and as much elevation as possible. That was one of the things. Are we now all on the same page?
So to be clear, an arch is preferred if it's cost neutral.
Right.
Okay.
Like he says.
it could come under bid. Yeah, I mean, you just.
We
don't
never know.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll,
Good.
excellent.
That would be nice.
That's
We
the
have a
other,
lot coming up in our
that's
budget that
that's
we
the other
need money
side.
for.
of it.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a
I'll
second?
second it.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion?
No.
All those in favor? Motion carries 4-0. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thanks,
Dave.
Dave.
And
Thank you, Chris.
Yes.
And
thank you.
we'll forward you the email. I don't have your email address, I'm sorry, but Audra can forward you the
Oh, yeah.
email we received from Jeff.
Very good.
Thank you.
Next on tonight's agenda for discussion items is police department presentations, beginning with the introduction of the new police officers. Chief Gagné.
Good evening. Thank you for giving us some time tonight. This summer, we hired we hired three. We lost one last week, but we still have two of our newest officers that we hired over the summer. Gab Duke comes to us from the educational field. She was a physical education teacher for RSU 13 for the last 7 years. She has a bachelor's degree in physical education. Gavin Redinger comes to us for just finishing up his associate's degree in conservation law enforcement and criminal justice. Both have completed the phase 1 and 2 training at the Criminal Justice Academy. Gab is currently in the field training program. Gavin will be starting fairly soon. Wanted to bring him in here tonight to introduce him to you so you can put a name to the face. So if you end up having contact with them, you'll know who they are. So welcome aboard. We appreciate it. And we're hoping that we're going to keep you around for a long time. So,
Well,
any
welcome.
questions?
And they're
Welcome.
Camden.
Gab lives in Rockport. Gavin lives in Aldeboro.
But are they Rockport Police or Camden Police?
They're Camden Police.
That's all I wanted to make sure.
Yes.
Just so
Now,
I
they will
know.
be They will be sworn in both agencies so we can
Yeah.
assist each other like we have been doing. But we'll talk about it a little later in the item 3, but these are both people that have housing here in town or in the area, either with family or they own their own house. So that's one of the things we'll discuss a little later. So thank you for coming. You're welcome to stay with everybody else. And any questions? Anything you'd like to say about yourselves? They did okay?
You did great.
There you go.
I
Glad to
think
have them aboard.
I'd say RSU 13. You're ready for. You've dealt with tough challenges already.
I have, yes.
This is going to seem easy.
Yeah.
Great.
I figured with what I have as a background that I'm up for the challenge.
Yeah, welcome aboard, both of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chief Gagné, next for you is the introduction of your Volunteers of America.
Sure. As you know, that last year we contracted with, we put in our budget to contract with the Volunteers of America. Chief Carroll from Rockland is our partner agency in this. And Tim and I go way back. Known each other probably longer than we've really wanted to, but great partner to have. We're in constant contact. We run things by each other all the time. And we both knew that our communities were suffering in quality of life issues, and we needed to get some expertise in here. Yes, the police can go and address complaints of mental health, drug abuse, and things like that, but it's usually just the reactive response to it, and then the follow-up, because everything else that's going on within our world is not what we needed. We also need people who specialize in being able to find people services that they need. Housing, drug abuse, general assistance, for instance, things of that nature. So Tim had, in his previous role as sheriff, had worked with the Volunteers of America and sung their praises, and got me introduced to Robin, Robin Goff, who's with us by Zoom tonight. Robin's the Director of Community Justice for Volunteers of America North of New England. And that brought along Steve Brimley, who is sitting in front here. Stephen is the Diversion and Deflection Program Manager and Community Justice Services for VOA. So we started right off with a bang. First day, Stephen comes to have a meeting with me. He walks through the door. Nice to meet you. I've got a case for you. And I told that in my information that I gave to the board. It was a veteran who was being evicted from their house, had lived there for 20 years, had a history of mental health issues. Very complex, 3 days before Christmas. Stephen didn't miss a beat. Got right on it, says, we'll take it. Got a hold of Danielle Mishu, who is a community liaison as well, works in the Knox and Waldo County areas. It was a very complex issue. It took us several weeks to work through, but VOA found that person housing, got them the help they needed. And that was just one of the many success stories we've had so far. This year, we hired our own community liaison officer through Volunteers of America. And Allison Richards is who's going to be the Camden and Rockland community liaison officer. Robin can give you a brief outlook at what they provide for services and tell you what we're getting for our money. I can tell you, and I know Tim will speak, back me up on it, the service that we have already received from Volunteers of America has been incredible, and they have done a great job. We haven't had a case that has been put before them that they haven't been able to find some type of resolution to. So I welcome you all aboard. I wanted the board to meet them. Robin, if you could give us about a 10-minute, that would be great. And then give Stephen about 5 minutes to explain what he does. Floor is yours. Thank you.
That sounds great. Thank you so much for having me and allowing me to participate by Zoom. My name is Robin Goff. I'm the Director of our Community Justice Programs for VOA. I oversee our programs in Waldo and Knox County. I'm starting to do some programs in Lincoln and Saginaw. I've been with the organization for 10 years. My background, my brief background, I was a social worker, substance use disorder counselor. My career, although I grew up in Maine, my career started in Kansas. I worked with the Department of Corrections there. I was a liaison between treatment providers and the Department of Corrections on a bill called the Senate Bill 123, which allowed first-time drug felons to participate in treatment versus incarceration, and was part of a pilot program on recovery coaching there. It's irrelevant because fast forward to where we're at today, implementing some of those programs in Maine around diversion and deflection and recovery coaching. A little bit about Volunteers of America as an organization. We've been the Northern New England affiliate for 30 years. We're part of the national affiliate, which has been around for 125 years. In our Northern New England affiliate, 70% of our programs are behavioral health programs. So as an organization, we have our behavioral health license. We also have our substance use disorder license through the state to provide outpatient substance use counseling. So 70% of our programs are behavioral health programs. We have a veterans program. Most are familiar with Cabin in the Woods in Augusta on Togus campus. We built 12 forever homes for veterans there. We have a youth homeless development program. We define youth as 18 to 24 for that program. It covers 6 counties. Knox and Waldo are 2 of those. So we have vouchers for individuals that are experiencing homelessness that fall into that age group. We also do affordable senior housing. As a national affiliate, we're actually the largest organization that provides affordable senior housing, and we have programs here in Maine and one in New Hampshire for that. And then there's our community justice programs, which I oversee. We've been partnered with Waldo County Sheriff's Office for about 20 years, and we have run the men's reentry program there, going into our 15th year next year. When COVID hit in 2020, that was our only program in the area, and COVID, of course, changed everything and the way corrections did things, looking at releasing nonviolent offenders or offenders with 30 days or less at the onset of the virus, not wanting jails to be overcrowded. And so as it was concerning to them, it was to us as well as a provider of not having proper release planning in place. And so we launched a few grant applications, and we were successful in those grants. We have 3 federal grants right now, a couple state grants, and then some contracts both with Knox County Sheriff's Office and Waldo. But with that money, funneling in over like $3 billion into both counties, and our team grew from 4 individuals to we have about 20 individuals on our community justice staff right now. And we kind of have 3 lanes. And so we have our diversion deflection program, which did start with Chief Carroll as the former sheriff and Sheriff Trafton, previous to Sheriff Trundy. We launched the LEAD program, which stands for Law Enforcement Assisted Diversion, and submitted one of those grant applications when Chief Carroll was still sheriff that we were awarded to implement community liaison. So we're looking, I'll let Stephen talk a little bit more about diversion and deflection, but we have several different avenues to divert individuals from the criminal justice system. Other than our diversion programs, I mentioned we run the men's reentry program in Waldo. We also are inside Knox County Jail doing some programs and groups, providing services there. And then we have our third lane is kind of our post-release work. So after somebody's coming out of a period of incarceration, we provide case management, counseling, recovery coaching. We have a transportation program that we launched last year. So any of our program participants can make a request for transportation to get to things like probation, post-release, treatment appointments, job interviews, a job once they gain employment, until they're earning enough money to find other means of transportation. But we provided 1,500 rides last year. It's a lot of rides, and we view getting people to probation appointments as a diversion tactic as well. Because if you miss too many probation appointments, you are back in jail or revocated. The cost to incarcerate one individual, I think Stephen, when he and I did the last radio show, we came up with about $78,000 a year. If somebody's incarcerated for a period of a year with medical and all those costs. And so to keep individuals in the community that don't pose a risk to public safety, we're able to work with them. The benefits, not just cost savings, but keeping individuals and families together. We know that this can be a generational issue, that children experience adverse childhood experiences when their parent is in jail, are more likely to grow up and have substance use issues and be involved with the criminal justice system. So the more we can keep families intact, when individuals are safe to be in the community, we can kind of walk alongside them and provide these services is our end goal. So I'll stop there and I'll let Stephen talk a little bit specifically about diversion and deflection, and I'm happy to answer any questions after as well.
Thank you, Robin. So as Robin explained, there are different pathways to individuals coming in contact with law enforcement. She talked about the men's reentry facility. That's for individuals that have been incarcerated and are reentering back into the community. We also have post-release, so individuals that are coming out that are not eligible for reentry, we can work with them up to a year after they're released, providing services, case management. Our team, Diversion and Deflection, is really at the beginning of that timeline. We're trying to meet individuals where they're at, whether that's in the community or in the jails. So myself and my team, we're meeting with individuals at Waldo County Jail or at Knox County Jail to try to get them set up for that post-release program. Where it really comes into work and play, it took place tonight. We're there to meet individuals in the community. 3 times tonight, yes. Yes, we responded to 3 calls this evening. We're working with law enforcement to meet individuals out there in the community to try to keep them out of the criminal justice system altogether. Whether that's providing immediate services into recovery, rehabilitation, connecting them to GA. We've actually received a couple of referrals out of your GA office. Anything we can do to take the burden off law enforcement. We work with law enforcement at the municipal level here, Rockland, Camden, Belfast, Searsport. Most of our work up in Waldo is with Waldo County Sheriff's Office, and we're starting to dabble with state police as well. So at each level, wherever there's a patrol, wherever they need our help to try to connect people to services, we're there. In terms of staffing, Allison was already introduced. She's a liaison specifically for Rockland and Camden. We also have Danielle, who's what we call a lead case manager, but she also does community liaison work. She's in Knox and Waldo, and I'm down here 2 days a week in Rockland and Camden. So Allison will be alternating days. So 1 week she'll be here Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then the following week she'll be here Tuesday, Thursday, and then alternates with Rockland. So there's always coverage here. Danielle and I also share, we split afternoons as well. So whenever Allison's in one place, we're in the other to ensure that your contract is being met, and same with Rockland. So I don't know if there are any specific questions. If you want specific examples, we're happy to answer those questions for you.
I have a quick question. I maybe missed it. On the schedule that you had, I heard Monday through Friday.
Yes.
What about Saturday and Sunday?
I'm afraid to
Sometimes
say
they're
my
busy.
phone. This is a tricky one. We're trying to set realistic expectations on what we can cover with such a limited staff. Unfortunately or fortunately, however you want to put it, my phone is on 24/7. I've received calls from both these police chiefs and their officers, but I have to be honest with them that if it's not an immediate response, I can't promise that we can respond. We do have a policy that within 24 hours, business days, we will respond, and we've done that. We've been able to hold up that end of our bargain so far. So if we get a referral Friday night, by Monday morning, we're making contact with those individuals.
So the weekend's a gap.
Yeah, I mean, if
Yes. I just wanted to chime in there also. Camden and Rockland currently contract for one position. Allison is there in the audience, but it's a Monday through Friday, 8 to 4, 9 to 5.
Yeah.
We certainly are seeing, number of referrals. We are maxed, at our capacity with the 3 liaisons that we currently have. Waldo County employs 1. Danielle is the lead case manager that the counties share. Allison to work specifically with you folks, and we are looking to bring on another. We're interviewing a liaison tomorrow to work with Knox County Sheriff's Office as well. But we saw 400 referrals into our program last year. So I just want to echo what Stephen was saying about the 24-hour response being business hours, and we do not have capacity for nights and weekends in the moment.
Is that something that you foresee going down the road to try to attain, or is that a bridge too far?
Bridge,
No, I don't think-
I mean,
Fine.
ideally, absolutely. We're dabbling with Friday nights right now. We rotate a schedule, so we work Friday nights, so we shift our hours from 12 to 8. But as we build capacity, that's definitely something that's on the plate. I mean, we understand that there's a need, a response on those evenings that we're not available. We try to accommodate those the best we can. But as a select board member, if you're willing to put up more money, we would be happily speak with you about another contract.
Well, is that the limitation? Is it just funding, or is it limitation more of people resources might not be available to handle that if you had more money?
It's funding.
It's funding.
driven by funding.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not a capacity issue as it stands now. I mean, we have our limitations, obviously, but if we had more CLOs or lead case managers, however you want to phrase it, that's definitely something that we would entertain. I mean, there are all sorts of different directions we can go with this. There's limitless opportunities. Yes. Any other questions, thoughts, concerns?
Anybody from the public have any questions or thoughts?
Good evening. Thank you. I'm Tim Carroll, Police Chief of Rockland. The services, and like Robin said, started working with her a few years ago as the sheriff. And when I came to Rockland, I wanted to keep that collaboration going with VOA because I saw the great work that they did in that realm, and wanting to create, we had the problems that we had in, or maybe still have some in Rockland. But the resources that they are for us in law enforcement is critical to doing what I call policing doing right, as far as treating people right, not just keeping that revolving door of going into jail, wait for them to get out, arrest them for their bail violations, making the contacts there. I think Stephen said, as of this month, is 60 clients they picked up this month. We're only halfway through. So being able to reach out to them allows us to do our job better, and it provides a better service for the people that really need the help, whether it's homelessness, substance use, a plethora of anything. They seem to have resources or help. And then just, the partnership with Randy, with the similarity of our populations, people from Camden, Rockport go to Rockland and they come, it's back and forth. So a lot of times we're dealing with the same clientele, but it's just the resources that they allow us to tap into, I think provides a much better service for our citizens, because it's all, I say it everywhere that if you haven't been affected by substance use at some point, family, friend, coworker, I think you're pretty lucky at this point because it is so rampant in this area. It really is everywhere. So to be able to treat people better and get the help that they need versus just throwing them into jail, put value to people, and we can do our job better. So that's where we are.
Sophie?
So, thank you so much. Robin, you don't remember me, but we met a few years ago when I was a restorative mentor. And I worked with a couple of gentlemen at the reentry program, and that was super interesting for me to learn about the programs and how you work and how the value of VOA and all the work you do. I think the issue we're facing is that I mean, unfortunately, you guys are the last resort. So you're not tackling the root causes of the issues and the problems that our fellow citizens face. So it's not, I mean, we could put more people so that they could get more service, but affordable housing, mental health services, and all kinds of stuff that need to be put in place in other, through society, basically, that's a much more long-term, these are much more long-term issues. So you're the catch-all for these people who need help with those acute crises. So I'm thankful for your service. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Sophie. I would ask both police chiefs and, I'm sorry, Allison. Thank you. If we were to try and expand this program, would there be an outline? And you don't have to give it to us tonight. I assume that you're more busy. You have more work than you have hours in the day to do.
I think we went into this in the partnership, and we want to bring Rockport in as a partner as well.
Yeah.
Next year, they had set their budget priorities for pay increases last year, so there wasn't money in there, but we would like to see them added as well. So the program is most definitely going to need to expand at some point. Tim and I went into it to get the ball rolling to see if one person could handle everything for both of our departments. We have a great bunch here that they're overlapping each other all the time to help out. Right now, and Stephen could tell you, manageability, Rockland, I don't know how many cases you're getting a week or here. Is it more than one person can handle right now from what little time we've had that you're seeing? I think it's going to be, and I think at some point we're going to have to look at that. But I think we should get a year under our belt, do an evaluation, sit down in early spring and look at that. Or maybe take a 6-month look just about time we start to do the budgets and see if there's going to be a need to increase that in the funding.
And that's what I was going to get to, is budget season is upcoming.
Yep.
So we need,
I think,
Maybe
you
next
think,
year.
Robin, you can chime in. Do you think a 6-month review of where we are would give us a better idea? And one of the other things I wanted to mention, we had talked about when we put this contract together, that VOA would also be seeking grant opportunities to help offset the cost as well.
Yeah.
I can tell you that the money we've spent so far has already proven that it's well worth the amount that we spent this year. So Tim and I still have a lot of work ahead of us.
Is there, so along those lines, so are there opportunities for more regionalization and more sharing of resources? Or, I mean, because I see you start building it with Rockland and Camden, and then you're saying next year you want to add Rockport. But I mean, so we can always bring more communities. That's not the issue. It's not the communities. But if we build a larger program, are there more grant opportunities, Audra or
Well, Robin,
Randy or Robin? You know, is there, so is there something we can think along those lines?
Definitely. I can weigh in on comment on a couple of things. In terms of a 6 months evaluation of the program, we certainly have data at our fingertips on all the referrals that we receive. But so we have numbers from last year. Prior to entering into a contract with Rockland and Camden PD, we extended our lead case manager, who is Danielle, who was working in Waldo and Knox counties with the sheriff's offices. We opened that up to Camden and Rockland PD to start utilizing Danielle ahead of having a contract with you. And so I have last year's numbers on how many lead referrals we received, how many CLOs, what police department, sheriff's office, where those referrals come from. So Chief Gagby and Chief Carroll, I can send that over to you. And I have this last quarter's numbers too, because we just submitted a report on one of our grants. But so Danielle, I mean, you're currently getting 1.5 positions, you know, really for the contracted position, because Danielle is working under grant funding to be able to provide some services. And I think too, you know, I mean, once an individual is referred to our program, it opens them up to all of our services. And so while you might be contracting for one position for Allison, you are getting the community justice team of 20 people where we have recovery coaches. We're working with these individuals. We're providing transportation. We're providing outpatient substance use counseling, getting to some of those root issues that Sophie was referencing. The position that we're interviewing for tomorrow is another community liaison for Knox County. It contracted through Knox County Sheriff's Office, but covering Knox County. That's under a grant fund that still has 2 years left on that cycle. That ends September 30th, 2025. And if we're successful in that 3 years, you can be invited to apply back for another 3 years. So we can think about it in terms of 5 more years of funding, because I believe in my team and their ability to implement programs. And so that also will add another CLO, community liaison, to Waldo County, because they have been sharing resources over the past few years. And that started with Chief Carroll as the sheriff and Sheriff Kraft that I referenced before. So there is a regional effort, because we know that individuals involved in the criminal justice system doesn't know borders, right? So we're seeing individuals that are residents of Knox County coming to Waldo County committing crimes, being arrested, and vice versa. So we've been taking this kind of regional approach and sharing resources over the last few years. I'm writing a grant right now, right, due October 30th. And so I'm always on the lookout for grant money that we can apply for as a response to what law enforcement is letting us know what the needs are. So yeah, I will continue to apply for grant funding. We'll continue to share resources of our entire team. And I think there's room for growth as well as we move forward to offer some more of that 24/7 capacity that you're referencing earlier.
And Robin's being a little humble here. We're the only program at VOA that actually receives municipal, county, state, and federal funding. So that sustainability is inherently built into a certain degree, and that only benefits when we're applying for other additional grants, because funders want to see that sustainability proportion of it. So when Robin's talking about applying for these other grants, we're way ahead of other programs. I also want to build on what Robin was saying. You're not just getting VOA. A lot of my time is spent building those strategic partnerships with other agencies that have historically worked in silos and maybe not even been in your community. So we're bringing in Maine Behavioral Health now. We're bringing in the Maine Health community workers. We're bringing in options more than they've ever been in here. So you're getting a lot more bang for your buck now. So that's just another way of looking at it.
Great.
Question?
Board, anything else? Chief, if you decide that this is a program that you want to support and promote in the future, make sure that you bring it up during budget season.
Yep.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
And numbers, we're always, sorry, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
We're always interested in numbers, in performance, in data, in how many cases, in just, and I think the public too, because those numbers are impressive. Already 60 interventions and it's October 17th. So it helps us understand the demand and the pressure on the communities and on the services that are put. So the more data and information we can share.
Absolutely. Yep. It's not, we're not anybody can have access to any of the data that we have to help paint the picture. We have an evaluation partner on 2 of our federal grants, Wilder Research. And they're flying in and spending the entire next week of October with us. And they're going to spend some time interviewing our partners and program participants. Chief Carroll will meet with us next Thursday with them, actually. And so they're going to be evaluating our Hope post-release program from the past few years. And once we have that report, we'll get that out to you folks as well. But
Thank you, Robin.
thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
And
Thank
I
you.
guess just from like a qualitative perspective on all this, so when people come into the GA office and need help, often it's not just a case of money. They need services that Janice and I can't possibly know what's out there in the social service landscape. And, the VOA team, they work with other services. They have those partnerships. So it's just a much better, we're just able to assist community members in need in a much better, richer way than we ever have been before, now that we have VOA helping us out. So I think it's just a better outcome all around. And, who knows in terms of like raw figures and dollars, but I think when it comes to being able to help the neediest people in our community when they're at a time when they're really needing support, you know, we're able to do far better for them than we ever have before with VO Hayes help. So
Well, to me, this sounds great. As Chief Camden knows, I've got a long history through my family members with the police, and that's actually what my degree is in as well. You know, criminal justice.
Are you looking
crisis
for a
intervention.
job?
No, not today.
Always trying to recruit every chance I
was just
get.
asking the same thing.
You know, you never know.
Well, I
But,
must say Allison has a degree in criminal justice and psychology, and both Tim and I have already tried to recruit her to the police department. So.
yeah, I don't think we'll bring my father out of retirement either. But
Well, Jim, we might be able to find a uniform.
well, yeah. Anyway, now knowing what police work was like in the 70s and 80s, and hearing the phone calls go off Thursday and Friday night, Saturday night. I know those are the late hours, and if you're bringing in a type of addition to the community policing of kind of like what it was in the old days, and having the people out there to support, that's important. We know that overall, it's very tough to get enough police officers, and it's great to have that go-between. So I'm, highly supportive of this what you guys are doing. I know it's not easy, and though I never had to work that way, certainly it's been vicariously worked. You can't be a son of a state trooper without having some effect on you on what people go through on a daily basis. And a ride to church might end up seeing some stuff that you didn't expect to see. So I think it's great that what you're doing, and I think that's awesome that you've done doing your test case at a lower budget. I would be supportive if this is worthwhile, that it gets expanded so that there's more coverage, because these issues are not going to go away. Yes, there are bigger.
We figured out a long
issues.
time ago, we're not going to arrest our way out of any of these problems.
No.
Incarcerating more people and not getting them the services they need is just,
No.
it's backwards.
This is great. So thank you. I just wanted to say that.
One other thing I wanted to
supportive
mention,
of that.
Sophie, you'd asked a question, I think, in one of the meetings I was watching about other things that are out there. I just want everybody to know, almost all of my staff has completed the 40-hour NAMI team training, crisis intervention team training. So they've all had extra training in that. So that's a diffuse situation type things. And so everybody except for our newest officers has completed that. And we'll send them to the 40-hour. They'll get so much of it at the academy when they go in January. So we do have extra training in those areas. And I've actually seen that work in a situation where we got called to first respond to an incident in Waldo County. That's where I got my first look at this. When officers from other agencies who'd never worked together on a case showed up, a barricade subject, the first thing they did was say, hey, let's make a plan. Let's de-escalate the situation. They talked the person out of the house. They came outside. Waldo had their crisis intervention officer respond. That person went to them with the hospital. I was like, this is pretty impressive to watch. Officers have never worked this case, anything like this together. But that was the first thing, was to de-escalate it and come up with a positive result. So I was sold on it from there, and then started talking to Tim about it, and that's where it started from. So
Thank you, Chief, for following up on my request.
see, I do watch the meetings. Even
I do,
from
I know you do, because
Thank you. Thank you for
appreciate
coming
it.
in tonight.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief. Next item on tonight's agenda is police union, police officer retention and recruitment.
If you don't mind, I'm going to ask Chief Carroll to stay by for a few minutes in case you might have some questions after this.
Can we release Robin, or?
Yes, Robin, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
I'm
Robin.
sorry, I just want to say on the subject of crisis intervention training, Chief Gagny and Chief Carroll, we just sent one of our staff members to Utah to be trained in it under one of those, our Connect to Protect grant. So we will be making available crisis intervention training as well.
Thank you.
Thank you so
You
much.
guys are all set.
Bye, Ryan.
You're all set.
Thank you.
Thanks, Stephen. Thanks, Steve.
Oh, Danielle, we forgot your 15-minute speech.
Thank you, Danielle.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you,
Good night.
Allison.
Good
Thank
night.
you, guys.
So as I was saying, I was going to ask Chief Carroll to stay because he's recently taken over command where retention and hiring has been problematic. So unfortunately, I have to come to the board to make you aware of the current situation with recruitment and retention of officers. You can ask the union. I've tried to kick this can down the road as long as I've dared to. But with the near collapse of our dispatch center here not too long ago, because of similar reasons, I think it's only prudent for me to come in and tell you exactly what we're facing right now. I totally 100% understand. These officers are under a contract that was negotiated with the town, negotiated in good faith. And when they signed that contract, they were in a good position. Unfortunately, everybody else around us has brought wages through the roof. I just lost an officer I hired who'd been here for 4 months to a better offer that included more money per hour, a take-home cruiser, a bigger patrol area. Camden is now the lowest paid police department in the county. We need to do something to stop losing veteran officers. Since 2019, I think there's been 11 that have come and gone. They've come and gone for a number of reasons, but mostly it's higher wages somewhere else. These officers are being recruited every day of the week. And you can let them tell you what they've had for offers, but some of them could leave here tomorrow for $10 to $12 more an hour, a take-home car, lateral entry to the next department for pay and vacation. I don't know how to stop it. I thought if we were to bring the wages up, that might. My good friend Tim tells me tonight that Rockland has just settled their contract. And their starting officers with zero experience will be at $35 an hour. Camden's at $24.99. I cannot afford to lose any senior members of my staff. We have hired 2 officers. We are still down 2 positions. We could make that manageable. But if we lose our training officers, we have nobody to train these new officers. I wish, I've been kicking the can down the road because I'm hoping that it's going to stabilize, but I don't see that happening. The sheriff's office has a number of vacancies. I don't know how these places are offering the money that they are, but it's everywhere, and it's everywhere around us. It is a statewide issue. It is a national issue. And I've got to say that we've got to do something. Or we can stand the line and say, you signed a contract, because that's what they did. And then we negotiated that contract. Median price for a house in the town of Camden is $650,000. Do you think a police officer is going to be able to pay that? No. I'm bringing it to you because I do not want my department and the town's department to crash like the dispatch center did. That was near closing. We were almost going to have a revolt to go down there and take over the dispatch center ourselves to make sure we had communications. Our officers are putting in the extra time. We've had to be creative. We've moved people around, but they need to have some time themselves too to be home with their families. I've offered you a possible solution. It's a recommendation that we could take money that is already in our budget by not hiring our last position and put that money towards bringing officer pay up to a level I think that would put us mid-range. It would be more than some departments. It would be less than others. I'm just worried that if we don't do something, we're going to either have to cut hours of service. I mean, I pride our department of being a 3-tier department where we offer emergency services. We offer tier 2, which is the follow-up type, the non-emergency. And this town loves to have foot patrols, radar patrols, everything like that. We are more proactive, used to be more proactive. We've now had to go into reactive mode, plus train new officers. So it has just been a perfect storm, and the timing couldn't have been worse. We had a really good competitive contract. Even with the 8.7 that we got last year, it's not bringing us close to anybody else. So this is why I'm bringing it here. The union members are here. If you'd like to hear from them, I'm sure that they would. Wes is prepared to speak. Is my solution or my recommendation what I would like to do? No, I'd like to stick with the contract. But realistically, four of my senior staff could walk out of here tomorrow and have a job. They probably could have a job within half an hour.
I'm right here.
Yeah. And it's frustrating. It keeps me up at night because we pride ourselves on service. These are dedicated officers that don't want to go anywhere. But when you're barraged with offers, how long do you say, no, I'm not going to take $12 more an hour and a take-home car? And am I wrong? Is it every day? I've sat down and talked to the officers. And you can, like I said, I've told them, we signed the contract. It's kind of hard to go back and say, we need more money. But that's the reality. I'm not asking to open the contract back up. If I have to defer major equipment purchases, I wanted to upgrade our technology in next year's budget. There's no sense to upgrade the technology if I don't have the bodies here to work that. I think what I've recommended would stabilize our ranks here. We keep our senior staff. We've got 2 good recruits. I have a plan for another position when Spencer Tooley reaches age 21, which is in April. We're going to be working at deficit staffing for quite a while because when these 2 officers go to the academy in January, we'll be 4 officers down. Will we make it work? Absolutely. But I need these bodies here to be able to do that. We've all changed our schedules around. I came in and worked Sunday night so Wes could have a vacation. I don't want to have to order people in because they're already working enough. Are we at critical now? No. And we have worked so long shorthanded that 2 is not going to be bad. We get Spencer on. We're still going to be until December of next year when he makes it through the academy. He's worked very hard. Everybody here can't wait for him to transfer from tickets to patrol. I think a lot of the downtown parkers are waiting for that to happen as well. But this is the world we live in. I respect your decisions, whatever you make. I just need you to know I wouldn't be here tonight advocating for this if I didn't think that we got a storm coming. And it can be something that we can weather, or it's something that we're going to have to make some major adjustments as to how we operate.
Chris, before you go, Sophie, please.
Thank you. So I have a couple questions from. So I've looked at the numbers you gave, and in your experience, is there any way that we can have like a moratorium, like locally, so that everybody plays together and agrees on the floor, on the same wage or same pay scale? Because everybody wants to keep their competitive advantage to recruit people.
Let me say, I have to thank Chief Carroll.
Right.
Because Chief Carroll went before his board or his council and recognized what needed to be done. And the city of Rockland brought their wages up 7%. And Tim can tell you the struggles he had taking over a new command where he was five officers down.
4 officers down, 2 headed out the door.
Yeah. And he had to be very creative. And they didn't reopen the contract. He recommended that adjustment to get them to be competitive. They've also offered 36-hour work weeks for 40-hour pay. There's many things that are out there. And I don't like this one bit. I don't like we bring hours up, we bring hours up. Where does it stop? Exactly. And I don't have that answer. And I don't think any of us have that answer.
But also I'm thinking, we've been increasingly talking about sharing resources, regionalization. We work with Rockport, we work with Camden, with Rockland on VOA, on the services. So I understand this is kind of the money can solve problems, but the way I look at it, it's a short-term fix.
Absolutely.
Because in 6 months, you're
Absolutely.
going to come back and say, hey, guess what? Those guys, they increase their.
I will
their
tell you
hiring."
this
So,
right
so we
now.
need to think creatively and also, and just, it's, for me, it's, I'm super willing to help and I understand the issues, but it's very frustrating to have this conversation outside of the context of what we're doing regionally or locally and understanding more than just a pay grade or
I
pay.
can
and-
tell you, Sophie, that it's going to be very hard to do that because every department has a union.
Yeah, I know, but we,
Complicates Tim and I have been
we have to
working-
be creative because we cannot be in lockstep every time somebody increases $10. You come back and say, they've increased $10. It's not going to be efficient.
I will tell you this right now, that if you make an adjustment and we can stop the hemorrhaging or the potential of losing people, I'm not coming back.
No, I would love to stop the hemorrhaging, but I also would love to think, to get a better understanding of what type of services can we maybe give to other organizations. I mean, I'm frustrated to have only a financial conversation and not a strategic one to better understand how we can support all those, not just us in Camden, but Rockport, Rockland, and other people, because it's not us just in a vacuum anymore. We can't, we financially, we cannot just be
It's
alone.
everybody,
It's everywhere. So I would
everywhere.
love
It's
to
not
have the
just-
opportunity to think about,
not just the police departments. It is the hospitals.
yes,
It is the private sector,
we have the conversation about the EMS.
fire
chief.
department.
We
I mean,
have
I
all those
watched that meeting
conversations.
the other night. I'm just giving you the,
And when it comes to emergency services personnel, whether it be police, fire, EMS, dispatchers, this is a nationwide problem.
Yeah.
And it's a worse problem in Maine because we have the oldest population in the
Yeah.
entire country and we have less people
I've been-
participating in the work.
you talk
So-
about working together. I've been very fortunate because Tim has filled his ranks. He does have one vacancy. But Gavin was on the roster to be hired in Rockland. They didn't have a position. Deputy Chief Gala called me, Tim called me. They said, look, we've got a great candidate. Think he'd work well for you. They've done that twice. I picked up an officer in Rockport. Same thing. Both are doing well. They just completed the phase 2 together. So we are sharing those. We talk about, Tim and I actually laugh and joke about someday we'll have to create Mid-Coast Metro and bring everybody together. And it's not, and I've told him he's going to have to be chief. I'll be second in command because I don't want to do it anymore.
I want to hear that.
But it's one of those things that definitely we're going to have to do something. So Wes is here, can speak on behalf of the union if you'd like to hear him. I can answer any other questions. And Tim's lived it. So if you've got any questions for Chief Carroll, I'm happy to put him on the spot.
Chris, do you want to?
Oh, well, kind of along the lines of what Sophie was saying too, it's too bad you can't do a non-compete sort of agreement. But what other things have you tried? Like, as we know, the fellow in Thomaston was fairly creative with what he went to do, and I know you lost some folks to that. And then the other piece, so what else have you tried? How much overtime are people having to realize right now?
A lot.
So can I
Yep.
answer one thing? Because, so this is every single select board, city council with a police department is asking the same question. And I forget which law firm it is. I think it was Eaton Peabody went and did a survey of all the police departments, not just, local police departments. They did sheriffs, they did the state police to find out what was drawing officers away, what was motivating them. Was it schedule? Was it benefits? Was it pay? It's pay. It's dollars home. I mean, look at the age of a lot of the new officers that we're getting. Benefits is not as appealing to them as take-home pay. That's just a reality of when you're a younger worker in the workforce. They care about their take-home pay. So I know you'd like us to do more research on this, but this is a problem that a lot of everyone's dealing with. Like I said, it's a nationwide issue. It's worse in Maine. It's going to be worse for us here in Camden because nobody can afford to live here.
Absolutely.
And at the end of the day, for them right now, it's about take-home pay and the dollars and the comparison to agencies around us.
I talked to a great mentor of mine who runs a college town police department in New Hampshire. I said, what did you do? He said, I was 8 officers down. We brought in consulting firms. We brought in professional advertising. We offered this, we offered that, we offered everything. At the end of the day, he filled his ranks by paying his current employees more and more to the people coming into the door because that was what was important to them. Money in their check. We offer great training. We offer great incentives. We start training officers at supervisory level after 3 years in patrol. You can't get much better than that. We offer supervisory training to them. We offer field training officers go after 3 years. You know, we get a few years to get on the road. But I mean, supervisory training is expensive, but when you start training line officers as supervisors before they ever get promoted as supervisors, it only helps your liability because they start thinking like supervisors and performing like that. So the training opportunities are there. We have a great schedule that works great for everybody. I've talked to the officers about maybe they all like the schedule that they're on. It was also they work a 4-day on, 4-day off. It was also very attractive. Other agencies have called and they've adopted the same schedule. Belfast PD has got it, several other ones. Thomaston came up with a schedule. We had an officer who left here and didn't stay down there very long and went to somewhere else. I don't know if it was a schedule or what, but.
So what is your current schedule arrangement now? Is it the 4 on, 4 off, or is it something else?
That's what the officers work is 4 on, 4 off. Administrative and the detective sergeant, we work 4 days on, 3 days off.
And so that's 40 hours a week.
We don't.
40 hours expected to work, or is it a 36?
No, we work straight 40s. They have long week, short week, but it all averages out to 40 hours a week.
Okay.
You know, we swap them around. We have shifts that we have to cover. We have to be creative, but sometimes we don't have enough people, so we bring in Rockport. Tony just came in. He helps us out on some of the midnight shifts. So I don't go into the security planning in public. It's how we schedule those things, but I'd be willing to answer any of those questions one-on-one. No sense to give the other team the playbook. But we do. We're lucky. We have Rockport to rely on. They have us to rely on to help fill some of those gaps.
And how much is there more work that's required of you now compared to 20 years ago with once Troop D left Thomaston?
So technology has killed us. And what I mean by that is when I came to work in 1989, we had a clipboard. You came in, you flipped through the complaints for the day, out in the car, you were on patrol. Now everybody's got 3 emails, voicemails. They've got to check all that. Every report has to have so much more. They have to transfer reports. I mean, you see our cars parked down there. When they're going from complaint to complaint and in there a long period of time, it's because the amount of information that is needed for every report, it's the video clips, it's the audio clips, it's the report itself, it's all the other forms, it's the mandatory reporting. The state of Maine has just passed, and it was supposed to have gone in effect July 1st, that every traffic stop, no matter what it's for, requires the officer to fill out information about the driver that you're not allowed to ask the driver about, which means they have to guess the age, race, sex, and they have to guess that. You can't ask them. And then I have to file a report with the Attorney General's office once a year on all of it, and it's because of racial profiling. That law makes no sense to me, but we are going to be required to do that.
So what you're saying in short is that there are, besides having fewer other people out there as assisting as other agencies, because other agencies are short-staffed too, that you have an increased amount of time required
Absolutely.
between incidents.
Absolutely.
Is it both, or is it just one?
What's that?
Are there fewer state troopers that you can rely on the road now during the
Not to
day
say
and
anything
night?
bad about my friends in the state police, but I just read last week that the state police has gone to mostly specialty teams, which is homicide investigations, tactical team, dive team, canine units and whatnot. State police aren't filling their ranks either. I mean, the retirements alone, they can't keep pace with it.
Yeah, my father was just at the retired state troopers meeting over the weekend, and I guess I should have gone.
Yeah.
But
The
anyway,
County
they
Sheriff's
were talking
Department
about the.
they're short on staff.
All right, Stephanie, you have a turn, please.
So I'd like to get back to your recommendation.
Yep.
So in watching the CBAs and discussions with other departments that have happened just recently, they have asked the police department to come up with a plan on how you're going to fund it. Your recommendations cover what you're asking as a Band-Aid until we reach the next
Negotiation.
CBA negotiations.
Right.
So I value that you came to us with a plan that said, we're willing to give up this to get this. It's not ideal. It doesn't bring us to where we're gonna be or need to be. However, going forward in 2025, I can just imagine that the
This is a stopgap.
bargaining agreement is gonna be quite significantly
And
higher.
at that point, I'm hoping
Right,
that we're going to have some stabilization.
yeah,
That there is not I'm hoping that Tim fills his ranks, the sheriff's department fills theirs, we've got ours almost filled. That's got to happen to get some stabilization.
right. So I just think that my point is that this is a cyclical problem. And it isn't just right here in Camden. And other departments have met it as a Band-Aid approach until they get to the new bargaining agreement table. Your approach is, it is just that. It is a Band-Aid with one corner peeling off. But I appreciate that you brought that to us. In reading what you wrote, I am not sure, and this may not be the appropriate time, but you put in there that other departments were giving a COVID relief funds, and you're right. I don't even know if any place else, so Camden did not do a COVID fund?
No, we did not.
Do you know, did we give any of the opera money to the EMS, police, anything like that?
I can speak for the police department. We did not receive any COVID type funding for our officers.
Right, and that was the whole push to have the ARPA funds released. I don't know where we put it, but
I can,
We put it into infrastructure projects.
right. So
Let me
that
just add,
isn't.
these
that-
officers never once complained about that.
I
and they're watching
understand,
everybody.
but what I'm saying
And I think you
is
know that
that,
personally because I've seen what
right,
Bangor's going through.
right,
They-
that's what I'm saying is that the ARPA funds that were released, we didn't misappropriate the funds. We just didn't appropriate it to personnel, which could have helped stopgap this problem that we have right now. Oversight, 2020, all of that.
I think a lot of that was, everybody was learning on their feet. And now we're suffering some of those consequences.
Right, and at the time, the bargaining agreement, we were higher, I get that, but the writing was on the wall. We missed a huge opportunity there, so now we are going to have to go back and look at this bargaining agreement in a different light. The holistic approach is that our budget last year was increased across all departments to raise to equal pay as police officer pays in the bargaining agreement. I personally am not, and I made this very clear at the very beginning, as much as I value our employees, whatever the newspapers want to say about that, I really feel like our police department and fire department people put themselves at a much higher risk than the peoples that work within these walls. I'm not 100% sure that I would be on board with a budget increase that is going to match what you're going to need come when you come to the bargaining agreement. But I do appreciate your recommendations that you went forward and said, here's my budget and here's how I can give you out of my own budget, because this isn't going to increase anything right now. We're not taking reserve
That's what I had to
funds.
look at.
We're not taking any of these other things. You're saying, we didn't see the writing on the wall. This is my Band-Aid. I actually really appreciate that.
Thank you. It's, I mean, these officers are going to have to step it up, and they're going to have to fill in for those positions that we're not filling. And I don't think there's any disagreement that they don't know that's going to happen.
I agree with you.
But man, I'd hate to come in tomorrow and have two of them say, I'm sorry, but I got to go.
One last thing. And I on to what Stephanie said too. I know I talked about some other things, but I talked about other things because I really liked your recommendation too. So there's no reason to drive into that. I was just a little concerned that only looking at pay sometimes doesn't solve everything when it comes to turnover. But I really did appreciate as well that you said, raise everybody else's pay except my own.
It's not about me.
And that's right. And I thought that was great. And it's just, it's what a leader should do.
The towns of
And
Camden
take care of the other people.
and lately Rockport have provided me with a good living.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got everything I've ever wanted, and it's because I've worked here for so long. Sometimes you take one for the team, but it's more important for me not to come in here and say, I got nobody left here. I'm walking myself, because I'm not gonna, if I'm the last one here, I'll be the last one here. But these people work hard and they need that. And let me see if I can clean this up, because I know how I want to say it. We're darned if we do, we're darned if we don't. If the equipment has to wait and a cruiser has to wait, that's what'll happen. And I've talked to these officers and said, look, this is what I can throw out there. This is what we might end up suffering from. We're going to have to limp our cars another year if we have to. We won't do the upgrade with the technology until times are better. Is it all stuff? Do I want to lose that last position? No. Eventually, when things come around, I would like to get back to full staff. But quite honestly, since 2003, Alan Weaver was deployed with the military. Pat Polkey was deployed. Jason Hall, Lake Jason Hall. And it was just continuous. You'd get, do any of you remember the last time we were fully staffed? No. So we're used to working with diminished staff, and we've proved over the years. We'll be creative, but that's what it's got to do. And I don't want the taxpayers of Camden to suffer because of it. If we've got to take the lumps, we'll take the lumps. But in order for me to take those lumps, I've got to have these officers here to do it and to train our new staff and to make it so Tim doesn't call them up. And of course, we do that stuff because we would do that to each other and say, hey, I'll give you a little more if you come over here. We try not to, but it's the nature of the beast. And I think I think that's about all I can tell you. And I just felt it was, the union had talked and wanted to talk with Audra and I, and we did. We had a great conversation. They understand. They know that they signed the contract. And they were very happy with that contract, and it was very generous. The 8.7 last year was generous. But the offers are just too great. And I can beat that to death. If you'd like to hear from Wes.
Yes, please, Wes, come on up.
So just to kind of bring you guys up to speed, basically since January of last year, we were down 4. We lost 2 senior officers to neighboring towns, both with 20 plus years experience. Officer Hartshorn went to Thomaston, and our detective sergeant went to the sheriff's department. They both were offered a substantial amount more money. So we've been short-staffed for the last year, and we finally hired 3 people. But the problem is when you hire somebody to get them so they can actually work the road, it's about a year. So it's about 6 months of FTO, and then they go to the academy for 18 weeks, and then they come back and go on a brief FTO again. So we have new officers, and it's great that we have these officers, but patrol has to pick up, because you can't just put somebody new out there. You actually have to do double duty. So now you're training somebody while you're answering the calls and doing everything. And it's just gotten to the point where we've lost so many, and I've been with the town for over 10 years. I've been pretty much the primary training officer. it's been rather frustrating at times. When you train somebody, you get them to where the town, they're doing a great job, and then somebody comes along and offers them more money. And now we got to start back over again. And it's kind of a revolving door. I would say probably in the 10 years I've been here, I bet close to 25 people have left the town. Most of them, I can't think of anybody that I've worked with that has left because they were unhappy or anything like that. It's typically, it's a bigger patrol area, more money, and a take-home car. Two of our two of our mid-range patrolmen that are both our FTOs, Officer Thompson, he drives 45 minutes to an hour away. I mean, he probably drives by 8 other agencies that would tomorrow, if he dropped an application off, would pick him up and offer him probably $10 more without, depending if he wants to go to a town or a county with a take-home car. That's not counting state police, Marine Patrol, Warden Service. Officer Bennett, drives 20 minutes from work. He's constantly, approached because he's that 5 years past academy, you're very sought after, and it doesn't cost, a different department to pick you up because after 5 years, you're pretty much free. So they'll offer them big sign-on bonuses, anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000 sign-on bonus, take-home car. They leave here with 4 weeks vacation. They go there with 4 weeks vacation. And the schedules, Thomaston works 2 days and off for 5. Rockland works 3 days, they're off for 4. So, it's not only the pay, but it's also the schedule, the benefits, the holiday pay, the other stuff that goes along with it. People aren't necessarily leaving because of the opportunity. We have great training. If you wanted any of our officers, if they wanted to do specialized training, for the most part, they're able to do it. It's the only hard part is we have to be full staff to send people. When we're short staffed, we can't send anybody away to do the training because we have to keep them on patrol. Right now, we're all picking up extra shifts when we can to stay afloat. And there's a difference between doing it because you want the overtime than doing it because we need to just fill the shifts. And the last year has been kind of hard for a lot of us. We've had some officers out with injuries and sickness and giving birth to their kids. And, when one point there was 2 patrolmen and we were basically just working all the time, it was a struggle. And we finally get somebody, things are looking good. And then the sheriff's department comes around and says, hey, we'll give you $15 more an hour and a take-home car to do basically the same job. You can't blame them for leaving. So our approach to talk to the chief and the town manager is just to say, hey, look, people are leaving for monetary reasons, and we have to do something to try to keep the people, because at some point we're going to lose everybody, and then with the service that we're going to provide isn't going to be the same that we have been providing. And that's basically why we're here, I guess.
I want to talk a little bit about the systemic problem here. Chief, I appreciate that you're trying to contain this into your budget, but I read the word defer in there, which to me means that these costs are going to come to us. You need cars, you need more modern equipment. So, deferring it does push it down the road.
It does. I think what I would ask Tom is that when we do the budget this year, that we put some mechanism in there to partially fund some of that. I think last year we put 30,000 towards a cruiser. Maybe start a small nest egg, not going full on all of that stuff. If, we could look at seeing if we could get grants for in-car cameras. We could look and see if we could get grants for body cameras and tasers as well. That's all stuff that we could look at. The system that I've been looking at is a redundant system where the body cameras, the tasers, and the cruiser cameras all work together. It's expensive. I'm not going to kid you. It's probably $35,000 a year. That system, when the blue lights get activated, the body camera, the cruiser camera comes on, and anybody else in the vicinity that has that camera, their cameras come on automatically. Draw a taser, all the cameras come on in the vicinity. Same thing with a firearm, anytime those are drawn. So I want us to get into that. So we've got coverage for every aspect of video, audio, from everybody that's on the scene. It's it's state-of-the-art stuff, but we're working in a world now where every bit of information you can get is more, better case preparation, reduces liability. But I understand it's expensive, but if we've got to put that off, but we are going to need to do it at some point. I'm just trying to lessen that blow, but I think setting up some funds to start putting some money towards that might help. It won't raise the budget dramatically.
Chief, your point is well made. You know, I understand that you need qualified personnel more than you need qualified personnel who know how to use these equipment. The other point I want to bring up though is about this contract. You're unionized voluntarily, I believe. This is correct.
Yep.
And being unionized gives you the right to collectively bargain. I don't think there's any other town employees that bargain for a contract. Okay. So when you sign a contract with the benefits that come with being collective bargaining, I definitely take issue with coming here. That contract was not negotiated with this board. That contract was negotiated with the town manager. So now you're coming to the board and you're asking us for more money for a contract that we really had nothing to do with other than approving it once the town manager bargained collective, did the bargaining portion of it with you. I see this as a false argument, to be honest with you. Other people are raising wages, so we need to raise wages. Again, these are things that could have been foreseen. These aren't long-term contracts. They're 3-year contracts. It's something, and where are we in the present contract?
We are a year and 3 months into the current contract.
Okay, so we still have 1 year and 9 months
We'd
left
start
on this contract.
negotiating next spring sometime.
Okay.
Not next spring, spring of 25.
So this wasn't pre-COVID. This was, stuff that we already knew about the workforce shortages. We already knew about the increased wages at the time that this contract was negotiated.
I wouldn't say that we knew about that because it's just started here within the last year that we started seeing incredible offers coming out from the sheriff's office and things like that.
How are other towns who have unionized police forces doing this? How are they increasing wages significantly?
Rockland went to their city council. Tim explained to them what he needed. They saw what the problem was in recruitment and retention, and they approved it. I've heard of numerous agencies that have done similar, or they have opened up their contracts to renegotiate them early. This is not something new. This is happening everywhere because nobody can keep anybody.
And if it was the reverse case, if it was that wages were de-escalating and other places in the town came to you and said it's going to be a drastic, we want to cut budgets in town and
Had this
wages are
conversation
going
with them as
down,
well.
it would be an open door in the reverse direction.
I can't answer for them. I can tell you what my feeling is. No, that would not happen. Absolutely. That's my feeling. You can ask the union.
I don't think we need to ask. I would just say that this is your budget, Chief. In the end, this is your budget. You've made a recommendation to contain this within your budget.
I want
But-
to say I brought it to you people because I wanted you to know what the climate was. Quite honestly, I hadn't even asked Audra if this is an operational decision that's within the town manager's privy or if it had to come to you. My intention was to bring this to your attention of what I would recommend that we do. So I don't have the answer for that. Maybe it
I
is-
mean, this is for this year. Randy and I are perfectly within our purview to do what he's recommended to you. The problem is if we do that and we don't have your buy-in for it, it's not a sustainable solution and we're going to have to go backwards. And I think that that's going to be, we're going to be much worse off going backwards than if we have your buy-in to do something about this and move forwards.
But it's not sustainable anyway. I mean, as
I would say
Stephanie,
we
no, I
can't-
mean, we
yeah.
clearly established that this is a stopgap. That's the word Randy's used. Stephanie said this is a Band-Aid with one corner chipped off.
I agree. I
mean,
don't know how
we-
we solve the public safety crisis, employment crisis across the country. I don't know how we do that. Like
Hey, look, we could look at
No,
consolidation
no, but
with other agencies.
I'm sorry, I've
Absolutely.
just
No,
interrupted you and
no,
you were.
no,
yeah.
I-
So I completely agree with you. This is the chief's budget. I'm like, why are we even talking about this? I think you're making us aware. It's great. I'm super happy about that. I am more concerned about the continued increased investments in equipment, in personnel, in everything, with not understanding what is the benefit to the town? What is the benefit to the taxpayers? Because they're going to see it. They're going to see it in the taxes and in everything. So we really need to have a better understanding of, is the crime rate in Camden so preoccupying that we need to have enormous amounts of equipment? I don't know those questions. This is not a criticism.
Nope,
It's a
nope,
real
I'm
curious
asked-
questions.
I'm asked by
Why
budget
are we
committees.
investing in body cams and all those things? So I really want to understand, how does it benefit the safety of people in Camden or even Rockport, Rockland, because we're now all working together. I understand this. How is it making us a safer town, a better town? Because to me, this discussion of you have to pay us more, which I understand and I appreciate, but it's one-sided. A negotiation and contract has two sides. Right now, we're only seeing the financial one to make sure we keep the force as it is right now, not even increasing it. So I would love to have this opportunity to have those discussions, because it seems to me that side of the bargain only comes to us when you need more money. So, and it's hard for me to say no, because I look awful. It's like, oh, you don't want to increase. And this is not my position. I do want to support you, but I would really want to understand what is it we're building? How is it benefiting the citizens? Do we need all this equipment? Because
I get asked most
don't
years
understand
in the
that.
budget committee, how come you don't have body cameras? Body cameras, after the George Floyd incident, it was body camera, body camera, body camera. Why don't you have them? Well, these officers would all like to have them because it reduces their liability. Because what happens out there that's not recorded is easy to go to your attorney and say, well, this happened and that. It is for their security. It is for the town's liability to give them the best equipment they can to make sure that we don't get into those particular. We're very fortunate. We've made it all these years without that stuff. But we do have cruiser cameras, which have remote mic, which we can get audio up to 1,000 feet.
I think what Sophie's talking about, though, is a level of service conversation.
Right, exactly. And this is super interesting for me. And I would love to have more time. And I don't want to have this conversation just as a counter side to a pressure point right now that is financial. But I do think we need to have this conversation, because we've been asking it. I mean, ever since I've been on the board, which granted is not very long, but I think.
Well, I
Allison is
would
super-
say everyone is seeing the consequences of this right now. We're short-staffed in that people are asking for radar details. They're complaining about speeding in their neighborhoods. They want people out there doing radar details. They want people at the school, officers at the school. They want foot patrols, lake patrols. What are the other community policing requests that?
Drug take backs, we do fingerprinting.
But I guess
What-
those
so
are
what
the
I'm saying
things that
is that-
suffer.
But so what I'm saying is that each one of those items are a decision. And
It's the level of service you want us to serve
exactly,
the community.
and I don't want to have this discussion
no,
now,
I
but I think we
understand.
should at one point, because we cannot address them technically just once in a while, but I think it would be beneficial to have this conversation. I'll stop.
I'm happy to come in and talk with you. I invite the officers
But
to
let's
come
do it.
in.
Let's put it on
I
a
think,
calendar.
I think talking to the officers of what they deal with on a daily basis would help you. You all game for that? Absolutely. We have experts in the subject matter, so but we want to deliver that 3-tier of service to the town that the town has grown to expect from us. And even shorthanded, we're going to make that happen. I mean, even as shorthanded as we have been, they still get up to the school. We still try to do radar. Alan just went out for a complaint. He's doing the speed studies that the town wants. So we're getting those things done. We didn't get a lot of lake patrol in this year because, well, thank goodness it rained quite a bit this summer. And we didn't, but Wes went out and did some, Aaron went out sometimes and did some, but it wasn't, what we had hoped to do. So
Simple question, but what are you doing
for your minimum number of hours between shift? I know if you're working a lot, that can be reduced. And
These
that
officers are really good at self-regulating at about 16. Sometimes we'll push it to 18, but we
Okay.
don't like to do that. Fair statement.
That's
So
all
at least
part
it's
of the
not-
bargaining unit agreement, though.
Yeah, we don't
I
have
mean,
minimum staffing through the collective bargaining unit.
Okay.
But everybody here is pretty cognizant. It
So at
gets
least
dangerous
16
when-
hours between shifts.
No, we'll work out to 8 hours between shifts is pretty much the norm. If
8
we
hours
need to.
only between shifts.
I mean, if we push somebody out to 16, we'd get 8. But where they work 4 days on, 4 days off, it's usually a end of the week or a beginning of the week. And I don't think we've done more than 12, maybe 14-hour shifts for the most part.
Okay.
Do we need to vote on this? Do we need, what's the?
No, this is just a
This is just
discussion
an
item.
informational point and we basically trust that you're going to do the smart thing with your
Look,
budget.
I know
But
it's,
what you're telling us is basically budget season.
It's-
This is going to come back to us and
it's,
we're going to have
it's
to.
sticker shock, I know, but I don't see any way else to do it unless you want to fund it out of something else, which I know you don't want to. So I will fund it out of my budget. I would propose that we fund the same amount of positions in next year's budget and continue it, but we won't fill that. I will not ask you to fill that position until we are on more stable ground. We know we'll run at least one deficit for the next year and 3 quarters. If we get to a time where we think that we can put that person back on, then that's what we'll do.
I'm going to, I think we're getting close to wrapping this up. Thanks, Chief. I would like to say that what I was going to finish with this is your budget. And as we move into budgets, so I'm going to support you to disperse your budget as you see fit. But as we move into budget season, this is a conversation, like Sophie said, that I think we really need to have in detail.
And it would help me gauge what the community wants from the police department. Maybe the town feels great that, hey, after 2:00 in the morning, you guys can go home and we'll call you out if we need to. But I don't think the town wants to go away from 24-hour coverage. But maybe there's been a change. I mean, the calls after 2 p.m. between 2 and 6 are less than 2% of our total call volume per year. I live in a community where there's no police. I live in rural. But Camden residents have grown accustomed to having that level of service. If we were to go to a model like that, and we can talk about this later, it's a matter of calling somebody in. I'm 14 miles, Wes is 8. Paul's up in Chelsea, so that time of getting to respond would take a little bit. But there's no, Camden and Rockport and Rockland and Thomaston all have 24-hour coverage. The rest of the county, after 2:00, I don't believe they have anybody out there. They're on call. So things to think about. There are ways that we could make adjustments. Like I said, I tried to keep it in the budget, and I think we can do it. But yes, I'm happy to defer whatever we need to keep our employees.
Not.
Can I just add?
Sure.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Because I didn't come to brag to say what the number is at Rockland. That wasn't my point of coming. It was really to support, to support Chief Gagné, because the argument that he's making here today is the same argument that I had last year with my budget for funding. I had one of my officers did fancy graphs. We were at the bottom at the time too. And just to make an argument, just in comparing other local agencies plus some other agencies, I threw Lewiston in there. Even at our rate, Lewiston, the argument is who wants to be a cop in Lewiston?
Exactly.
But,
That's a little
you know,
outlier. Let's just be
That's an
real.
out-
That's
That's
an
what I'm saying.
outlier.
That's an outlier.
Okay.
That's an outlier. But it's still to the point, this generation will go there for money. They're not looking at what we know, what history as far as Lewiston. But that money there is ridiculous. They're getting top supervisor pay for entry-level officers. But my point was to support him as far as the arguments for that, and we just needed to get competitive. We just need to stay competitive. And unfortunately, that's what the call volume, we're at 13% more than last year. We were at 12% than from 22 to 21. The call volume is higher, I think, to some of your point, because that's what society demands. We have an uncontrollable 5-year-old at home. They call the police. Are we supposed to say, sorry, you handle it? No, there's an expectation that we go, that we have to be there to answer those calls. And that's not a made-up call. That's a frequent, not frequent, but we get those calls, an out-of-control 5-year-old, 7-year-old. Kids, we're there to police children at home. Those are real calls that we get. So those are things that it's society's expectation of law enforcement has greatly increased.
I mean, my questions, you have to understand, and probably maybe you don't. I come from a country where we have a vastly different system, where when you place a call, you're going to be, the fire department will come, the ambulance will come, depending on your crisis. The police is not the first responder, like we are here, like you are here.
Right.
And so the reason why I'm asking those questions is because I really do want to understand the model. It's not and Randy, we've had conversations, so it's really curiosity and trying to understand how we can make it better so that our citizens have the level of service they need. So I hope you do understand where I'm coming from.
I do, absolutely.
And I
level of
can make
service
my
that is
French accent even worse to
expected,
make
I
sure
think,
you
are
get it, that it is not against you
I think-
personally.
No, I think there's two different things from what is needed and what is expected.
Yeah.
And the only thing,
Yeah.
we have to answer to what is expected too.
Right.
We can't say, sorry, we're not coming.
Calls and I'd like to say, yeah, no. But there is an expectation that we're going to respond, and we do.
But I just want to, I didn't come here to brag that it's more money.
Yeah,
The
sure.
council did support that, but it's, as far as what's the atmosphere of law enforcement right now, it is crazy. It's every year. When I was at the sheriff's office, we ended up going to, every year is a contract reopener for pay and benefits. Every year that's discussed. That's in the contract because it's changing so fast. And we started that probably 5 years ago. Things were changing that fast 5 years ago when it comes to pay. It's ridiculous, really. But that is, because there's got to be a level. You can't get to paying a cop, I'm sorry, even with you guys here, a cop is not worth $100 an hour. I mean, where does it end? Where does it end? I agree. But there's got to be a balance there somewhere. I agree.
Okay, thank you. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having us. All set?
Yep, we're good.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on tonight's agenda is agenda items for upcoming meetings.
Well, this one.
Well, that'll be probably handled in the budget part, I would suspect.
Yeah, or a workshop.
Or a workshop. I
I
mean,
mean, like we did with the workshop we did last week with EMS, that seemed like a valuable experience. No?
I'll take the fifth on this one, but
It was informational, certainly.
I think-
Informative, yeah.
the issue I have is really to get community involvement in that and making sure that the citizens of Camden can, because we have a list, we know the list, and there will have to be some trade-offs. And if the trade-offs are made here at the select board level or at the budget committee level, we really need to make sure that people are informed about them and don't come back and say, why didn't you, because we can't finance everything. We just can't.
So the last one at one of our last meetings, we discussed some upcoming agenda items. I'll just bring them back to light and kind of gauge priorities. And Audra, I know you probably have some too. Yours were mostly fees, Audra. Codes
Yeah.
and planning, Harbor, Opera House, whenever you're ready.
Yes, yeah, fees will probably be ready, I would say, December, January,
Okay.
and the personnel policy will be ready for the next meeting.
Okay, Sophie, we covered some of yours tonight, which was a process and timeframe for applying. Well, we did the committees, but we didn't actually define
Yeah,
process
okay.
and
So we could,
timeframe.
for next year, you mean?
Yes.
So
yeah,
we kind of, okay.
to actually define that.
Yeah.
I don't know if, again, I don't see that as a big agenda item, other than making sure that we all agree and discuss and
but-
set a policy.
I do want to talk about our next meeting is November 8th. So we have a span going on here.
Yes. Is it 3 weeks? Is
Yes.
that what you mean?
Yes, and it is the day after the election,
That's
so
right,
it's on a
It's
Wednesday.
a Wednesday.
So that's,
Sophie, you also had Dark Sky.
Yeah, but I think it's a very low priority. I mean, my question to you was, which type of priorities do we want work, like short ones, midterm ones? I mean, we have the budget committee coming in, and that's going to be a lot of work. So I'm just trying to gauge, not to overburden everybody. So Dark Sky is easy.
Yeah, we had.
I'm happy to prepare a memo if you want. or-
Yeah, actually, if anybody wanted to do some background work on that,
I
you
have
would be
started doing that.
That would be
so,
wonderful.
Yeah, yeah. I can do
And when
that.
you're ready,
Yep.
we'd like to at least have it as a discussion item, I think.
Yep.
Paid parking.
So we have a meeting of the advisory committee on the 24th of October,
when is that?
23rd.
Oh, 23rd.
Is it 23rd, Janice? It's Monday the 23rd. That's why I have on my calendar. Yeah,
What time is that?
2 p.m.
We also discussed.
So we could give,
Go ahead.
sorry.
I think
So-
it's the 24th at 2 p.m.
It's 24th. Okay, I'll just move on my calendar. My bad. Sorry. So we can give an update at the November 8th.
Great, perfect.
That can be.
That's great. Next meeting.
Yep.
And then one thing that I brought up was getting a update on Siemens. Did we actually define when they could come potentially and give us some data on the energy efficiencies?
No, we haven't defined a date for that.
That would be good just to, I mean, we spent a good amount of money on that and to kind of wrap it up, let the citizens know
Yeah.
performance
Yeah.
data as much as we possibly can. I know that Stephanie mentioned Tannery Park, which I am also a fan of discussing. I'd like to see that on the agenda sometime.
You know, 'cause that's kind of, given that it's so adjacent to the Rossin Avenue Bridge thing, it's kind of like the
Yeah.
whole area to think about.
We're coming up on the 35th anniversary of acquiring the lot, so,
Awesome.
or something like that.
Now, you mentioned the public use.
Yeah, public
piece
landing
as well.
policy. Yeah,
What about the public use, public land?
public landing.
Not just the landing, but Jeremy said 2 meetings ago that he could come to us with, these are the different public use spaces in the town of Camden. And it was more than just the public landing. For consideration of this. these
Yeah,
are the
we
different
haven't
public
been,
spaces.
we've only been looking into the public landing.
So I think that the public landing is probably higher priority than the tannery. Just because I feel like we're closer to a solution on that based on what we've seen.
And we have a grant.
But,
Okay.
and this was part of the discussion with the use of public property came up because of the couple of different businesses that wanted to have space there. And we didn't want it to be a lottery feeling of, ooh, I got lucky this time, like Sophie mentioned. What is it, a lottery? People are, some sort of metric to say,
Is Jeremy going to make a presentation on that? Was that part of the public landing? He was also going to do,
So that would be separate from the broader
Okay.
project to, the engineering to redevelop it.
sure, it makes
Yeah.
sense. So we do need a policy for
We need a
that as
policy,
well.
yes.
Yeah.
We need a policy on the businesses, on the nonprofits, on which area we want to have. And it should include also the Chamber of Commerce building.
Oh, yeah.
It should also include, the recurring demand of the windjammers and schooners to have an area where they can take shelter when it rains, put their prospectus at night, things like that. So all those issues, because we don't have a public policy on public landing usage. So that's what we should be thinking about.
Okay. So we have some things to talk about for sure. This is, I will say that we are ambitious, which I love.
well, that, and then, there's always the recurring sewage issues.
I.
We
Yep.
have a meeting about that planned, scheduled, right? Don't we have a?
Oh,
wastewater?
yes. Yep.
When is that?
I
Is that? did
forgot.
we
I'd have to look at
finalize
the
that?
schedule. I think it's sometime in November that we scheduled that for. Let me just look.
5 PM on the 20th.
5 PM, 20 November?
November 20th,
What is it?
to talk about sewer,
Stuff.
That is 5 PM.
not just sewer. I think it's all
Wastewater.
subsurface.
Oh, wastewater, 5 PM.
Yeah.
I have it, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, wastewater workshop, okay.
5 PM on November 20th?
Correct.
'20th, yeah, Monday.
Monday.
And with that, I'm going to make a motion that we adjourn.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor? Motion carries 4-0. Thank you. And this is my first time, so excuse me if I get the language incorrect. Jadis, are we shut off now? Okay.